welcome back to the party, everybody. I'm your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you, and let's party. Big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to watch this, even though you missed the live party. Oh, I forgot to set this up on Instagram, but welcome. Thank you so much for coming back to watch this, even though you missed the live party replay gang. That is the best part. So make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So hit that subscribe, ring the bell, and you will never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again. If you'd like to support the channel, head on over to the Indian Jesus. Oh, wrong one. I forgot to share the screen. There's our guest. We will get to him in just a second, but head on over to theindianjesus.com to get your very own official merch. You can get a latte mug, all that good stuff, only at theindianjesus.com. Guys, we do also have a completely free Discord server. It is absolutely free to join 24/7. We are in there hanging out, having a good time. That is where we met our friend. Like I said, it is absolutely free to join. However, if you join this channel as a member, you can scroll right below the video, hit that join button. Couple different levels here. Starts at just $2.99 a month, and that gets you not only members only live streams here on YouTube, but it opens up the full Discord server to including the after party. So as soon as we are done here on YouTube, we are going to head right on over there, and we don't have to worry about these censors, and you are not stuck behind your keyboard. You are on screen with me and everybody else, like my boy Jetstream here. So come and join us. Let's welcome him. Welcome, Jetstream.
Hey. How's it going, guys?
Good to see you. So, welcome. Yes, one of our Discord members. But for those who don't know, who are you? What do you do? And what are you here for?
Well, so I noticed your stream. What was it? About a couple weeks ago, I saw you making some claims that Christians don't have any good arguments, that Christians, can't make any valid points, and they just say, believe me, or else. And, I was hoping that today I might lay out what I feel to be a convincing argument for why we should believe in God, and not just any God, but specifically Jesus Christ, as, referenced in the Bible. And so I guess I'd like to start by just saying that I don't think that anyone can prove the existence of God. I don't think that anyone can disprove the existence of God either. So neither one of us will probably be making any, definitive proving type arguments. But I do think that there is evidence that maybe we should consider as to why these religions this religion is so prevalent, why it's withstood the test of time, and maybe just give you less of the kind of mindless, you're wrong, I'm right, and more of a good conversation that we can all benefit from and sharpen our ideas. They like to say iron sharpens iron.
Indeed. And we've definitely, we've gotten into it in a Discord a few times already, which is why I'm so excited for this. And it's been, it's been pretty good. It's been a good balance of, heated and passionate and respectful. So I expect that is what we are going to get from this. Let's shout out our boys. We got Schwab in the building. Welcome to Nick Lou Ketty, my favorite mod, doing all that work. We got King Nirvana with the Brunub. Welcome. Very good to see you guys. So yes, if you are new here, I am the Indian Jesus, but I am an atheist. I was born in the Catholic Church, confirmed in the Methodist Church, but as I got older, as I read the Bible for the first time, I learned about psychology and philosophy. I just realized that I no longer believe, I no longer need what religion offers in order to live the life that I think people should be living. And then we got Am in the building as well. Iron sharpens iron indeed. So I'm going to throw it to you, sir. And why don't you give me your thesis, and we'll start there.
And real quick, I'll just say that I was raised in church. I've certainly had my moments of doubting my own faith, but I think after, a thorough examination, I never want to be somebody who just believes what I've been told or just believes what my parents taught me. It's always been important to me that if I'm going to believe something, I'm going to believe it because I came to that conclusion myself. Right. And so, right now I'm just a regular guy. I'm not a pastor. I don't have any superior training, but I'm going to come out here and do my best. So I guess to start off, I'd like to lay out an argument, like trying to make a sort of a formal argument. I'm sure I'll mess it up here and there, but basically my premises are that there are three basic premises to my argument, three claims that I'm making that I think I can provide evidence for. And I think that if you were to accept my claims, right, and you find my evidence convincing, that you would logically kind of be led to believe that there is in fact a God. A couple of things.
Boys being boys.
Okay,
And
so
yeah, guys, if you have yeah, so as you can see, Jetstream's done a lot of work here to use as a jump off. So we're gonna be going at it. If you guys have questions, get those super chats in, and of course, every donation comes with a treat for my co-host Morty. All right, Jetstream, give it to us. Let's see.
So why should anyone believe that Jesus is real, and not only that he's real, but he is God, that God came to earth and spoke to us, and that there's certain things that he wants us to do. So that's a pretty big claim on my part. So I'd like to start by establishing, right, that Jesus of Nazareth, right, the person who's written about in the Bible, that was in fact a real person, right? I think we can get to that. We can be confident of that. Without the Bible, without any sort of religious, evidence, right? So, additionally to the fact that he was real, I think we can also be pretty certain that he was executed. He lived in the region of Judea and Samaria, and he was executed by Pontius Pilate, right? I think these things we have evidence to believe that. So the first thing, if we want to hop down to just A there, P1A. So there are historians, right? Not people who would have been friendly or, felt like supporting Christianity. And the first one I'd like to talk about is the Roman historian Tacitus, right? So his writings, specifically Annals 15.44 reads, Nero fastened the guilt of the fire and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on a class hated for their abominations, called Christians by the populace. Christus, right, the anointed one, the founder of the name, was put to death by Pontius Pilate, the procurator of Judea, in the reign of Tiberius. But the pernicious superstition, repressed for a time, broke out not only in Judea, the first source of the evil. So you can even see here that he is not a fan of Christians or Jesus, right? But even in Rome, where all things hideous and shameful from every part of the world find their center and become popular. That kind of reminds me of the United States right now, where all things hideous and shameful find their center and become popular. And then furthermore,
I think you're just weird if you think that. That's just weird.
What?
Okay, so this is you giving evidence that he was a real person.
That he was a real person, and so you might already accept that he was real. I think you might.
Yeah. So I'll just in case this helps kind of truncate things. I don't know necessarily if he was real, but I don't see any personal benefit to denying it. I don't think whether he was a real person or not, I don't think that changes my position too much at all. But
well, I mean, so for me, it's kind of foundational that he was a real person. I also don't know for a fact that he was real. I'm believing that he was fact, and this is kind of some of the reasons why, right? Because not just because there's this great tradition that's been established of the church, and all these things that happened because of him. But because you can even look at people who wouldn't be a fan of Jesus and see that they also verify his existence. And another one would be Josephus, right? So he wrote down that, about this time, this was a Jewish historian who was working for the Romans at the time. And in his writings, which you can go and verify for yourself, he wrote that about this time there lived Jesus, a wise man indeed, if indeed one ought to call him a man, for he was one who performed surprising deeds. He was a teacher who drew to himself many of the Jews and many of the Greeks. He was the Christ. Now, parts of Josephus's writings are disputed by historians, and I'm happy to exclude those parts for the purpose of this discussion. So historians will say, oh, the early church added on where, Josephus claimed that Jesus did miracles, and they added on that, that he appeared after he was killed, right? But even without those parts, I think what's clear is that Josephus is confirming that Jesus was a real person and was in fact put to death by Pontius Pilate, which kind of confirms what we're seeing in the scriptures, what we're told in the biblical story, right?
So far, that just says to me that all of them believed the same thing that you believed. Maybe not exactly the same thing, but I mean, that Jesus was, the Son of God, that he was somebody that Pontius Pilate had to worry about, so on and so forth. That doesn't necessarily go to whether or not that was actually the case.
Well, I don't think that they would invent a person called Jesus if no such person existed, especially people who were antagonistic towards the idea of Christianity.
Right.
So I guess my question to you then.
But again, even if people are antagonistic towards Christianity, that doesn't mean that the beliefs that they have about Christianity are accurate.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, we don't know.
I guess the bottom line is, why does it matter? When it comes to the question of believing in God's existence, why does the existence of Jesus as a human go to that?
Well, I just think it needs to be established first that he was a real person, that he wasn't an invention, say, of the early church, that he wasn't a made-up magical figure, that we can find if I could find no other evidence that Jesus was a real person who lived, I would find that very challenging to my faith. I'd say, well, maybe the church made him up, man. Maybe they just invented this religion and there wasn't a real historical Jesus. But the fact that I can look at historians who would have no real stake in trying to further Christianity and actually, in fact, were against Christianity, didn't like Christianity, didn't want it to flourish, right? And even they acknowledge that this was a real person who lived. I find that convincing. Okay,
shout out to Mighty Sarlacc here. Yeah, getting ahead of me, and yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Is that I'm willing to admit, or I'm willing to not get down in the details of whether Jesus was a real person. Which again, this is meant to be the starting of a series. So maybe that's a stream that we do go down and get in the weeds of was Jesus actually a real person or not. Let's just assume for this conversation that he was.
Okay, so you're going to grant that for now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
perfect. So then I think that what comes to the next part of the argument that I think the next premise, the next claim that I'm making about Jesus isn't just that he was a real person, but that he did in fact claim to be God, right? So that's going to be, part two, kind of next page down. And you don't even necessarily have to pull this up, but the person that we established that you've granted that he was a real person, right? Mm-hmm. He did in fact claim to be God, right? This isn't an invention that somebody else made up about him. He, in his own words, told people that he was God. And so the evidence that I have for that claim is going to be scriptural, right? So when you look at the Bible and you look at when Jesus is talking to the Jewish leaders of the day, and you'll have to forgive me, I can't believe it, I don't have the verse on me, but I'll get it in just a second.
Sure. And while you're doing that, I'll lob, a very big question at you of, again, before we get down in the rabbit hole. Mm-hmm. I haven't been given a reason why I should treat the Bible as anything other than a book that has some good ideas.
Mm-hmm. So I think that, a book that has some good ideas, anybody can write a philosophical treatise, right? And that treatise could withstand the test of time. I agree, right? Completely. But the thing that makes the Bible a more believable source of scientific, of historical evidence, because that's what I think it is. I mean, that's the claim that I'm making, that the Bible can be looked at as, just like the work of other historians of the day, the Bible can be looked at as real writings of real people who lived in the ancient world, right? And so if you're asking, well, how can we believe anything that anybody in the ancient world wrote down? I'm not really sure what to say to you other than I think there's something to be gained about reading about what people wrote who lived in that time. Like, if you want to know what they thought, if you want to know what they believed, you should read what they wrote, right? And that's what all historians do, is they read the literature that can be traced back to certain times, and that's how they develop their opinions about what happened in history, right? So the verse I'm going to point to is John chapter 8, verse 58. And this was a really big claim that Jesus made, which was, before Abraham was, I am, right? And so when Jesus says, before Abraham was, I am, right? There is no question in Jesus's mind, or in the people living in that day and age, what the significance of that claim is. So that claim is so significant that they immediately pick up rocks to stone him and kill him. There is immediately, they say, that did it. That put, the very next verse, pushed them over the edge. They picked up rocks to throw at them, but Jesus slipped away getting out of the temple. He had to run. Because if you think back to the Old Testament, which all of these Jewish people would have been very, very familiar with, right? The writings of the Torah, the Old Testament. What does the burning bush say to Moses when he asks, who are you? He says, I am that I am. So this word, in the context and the culture of Judaism, that I am, right, has a greater meaning, not just a meaning, oh, I'm somebody. It's a meaning, it's claiming divinity, right? And as soon as Jesus makes this claim in front of the Jewish leaders, the Pharisees of the day, they don't stop trying to kill him until eventually he's executed by Pontius Pilate. So
I don't know how that gets us away from, they all just believed that he was special too, and they happen to be wrong.
Well, so could you break that down for me a little more? They all believed that he was special.
Because what you're saying, you're taking the truth of Jesus and the Bible first, and then saying, well, it says this, this, and this, and it lines up. But it would line up if you guys both believe that this person, who we, at least for this conversation, agree was a real person. If King Nirvana and you both thought that I was actually the second coming of the Messiah, then it would make sense that you would behave that way.
Mm-hmm.
But your belief in that and your behavior that backs up that you do in fact believe it doesn't actually give any credence to the fact that what you believe is true. Because
I agree, and I'm not trying to establish that with this claim. I'm not trying to establish that anything divine is going on here. All I'm trying to establish with this part of my argument, this claim, is that the Jesus of Nazareth in the first claim, he claimed to be God, right? He said, I am God. And so if he said that, and the reason I feel like he said that is because people who were alive in that day wrote down what he said, and then those scriptures and those manuscripts were then transferred, copied, rewritten, and not rewritten, but recopied onto new books and passed around and disseminated. And there's a very high degree of certainty that we have the original testimony of people who lived in that day and age, right? So that's what I'm thinking. So, oh yeah, Funk Master.
Yeah, shout out to the Funk Master. Thank you so very, very much. And guys, if you could do me a huge, huge favor and hit that like button, it is free, it is easy, and it helps push this out to more people so we can get this conversation all over the place. Let's get the party popping. Thank you again to our new sponsor, the Funk Master General. Thank you. Muddy Sarlocke says, seems like a vacuous claim, just claiming to be God. And that's again kind of where I'm coming from. But if you're, you're just so
I'm laying the groundwork. I'm laying the groundwork.
yeah.
So I think
like,
it all is going to come down to, and well, I mean, one more piece of evidence that he claimed to be God. I mean, all of his disciples, all of the people.
Let's stop right there and shout out to Jetstream. There you go. There you go. Yes,
Appreciate
again,
it.
thank you so much for coming up and being willing to have these discussions. Out sponsoring your damn self. Yeah, Amb and Taylor, y'all realize, oh damn, it is like, damn, I'm scared. But it's just me. It's just me. But thank you, sir, very, very much. I'm gonna throw it back to you, Jetstream.
Yeah, and so one other thing, like another reason why I'm reasonably convinced that he claimed to be God is that the majority, almost all of his disciples, it is believed, it's widely held that all of these people died, were martyred, were killed because of their faith in this claim, right? So I don't think they would have happily gone to be burned in service of the made up lie that they.
But they didn't believe it was made up. I'm the one that's saying
exactly.
it's made up. So that's what we're here discussing. Was it true or not? And
right.
So you're so far, explaining what it is that you believe. But I'm getting and I'm familiar with what in general the Christian doctrine says. If you just I guess if you want to continue laying your
let's go on to premise number 3. So this is where I think the real faith has to come in, right? So this is where I would admit that you need faith in order to believe these things, but I also think that there is evidence that we should accept. So Jesus, this all is going to hinge on whether or not you believe that Jesus himself did in fact rise from the dead, right? So if somebody rises from the dead and something miraculous happens, then that is going to change my mind on a lot of things. You can claim all sorts of things, but as soon as you rise from the dead, now you've got my attention. Okay, now I'm willing to believe what you said and follow you. If you don't rise from the dead, okay, then you're just a guy with some good points, some good teaching. Maybe those teachings stood the test of time, whatever. But if something miraculous happened, if somebody was literally brought back from the dead, then that is what makes me sit up and take notice and say, okay, now I'm willing to
agree if somebody was brought back to the dead.
So why do we think that Jesus was brought back from the dead, right? What makes me personally believe that Jesus was resurrected from the dead? Okay, I'm sorry, you mean just one.
Baby time. That is okay. Shout out to Stephen Colbert Cheese in the building. Said Amenhotep was a historical minister in the court of that, whatever that is, the credited architect of the pyramids. But a few thousand years after his death, look how cute she is. Hi. So a few thousand years after his death, he was worshipped. Do what you got to do, dude. He was worshipped as a god of medicine and healing. Okay.
I don't find. I mean, maybe Stephen, if you could present like an argument as to why you believe that Imhotep was divine, maybe I could hear you out on that. But
yeah, I'm not really sure. Shout out to Brad. See, welcome.
Okay, no proof anyone. So I'm not aiming to prove anything, by the way, here, Brad. So what I'm trying to do is say we take a lot of things in our life based on faith, right? If you want to get really ontological about it, we don't know when we step out of bed in the morning if we're going to float up to the ceiling or sink down through the floor. We're taking a lot of that on faith. We haven't come to these conclusions ourselves.
I agree.
You agree, right? You would
absolutely.
Agree
However, there's a very, very, very different collection of evidence for why I believe that when I step out of bed, that I'm not going to float away. Namely, that every single day I've stepped out of bed and I wouldn't float away. I often go to, I use this thing that I have faith that if I let go of this, that it's going to fall. It is absolutely possible It is absolutely possible that there's some physical anomaly,
Right.
or that there could be a God and a miracle that I let go and it floats up.
Right.
But the faith that I have is what I would call a justified faith because of the logic and evidence that is there, which I don't think is there for the resurrection.
Right.
Even
And
if we're
all I'm
going to
trying to
say
say is
that
that you.
his existence.
And all I'm trying to say is that you might find my evidence convincing and say, maybe there's something there. Maybe I should look into that. Or you might say, I'm unconvinced. I don't find your evidence convincing. And that's totally fine. I am not, like I said in the beginning, I'm not in a position to prove anything to you. But I'd like to at least lay out the argument in a way that I find convincing to me. Right. So here's why I find it convincing, because I saw someone said that people have willingly died for many false beliefs, but not many people die and go to their deaths.
We lost your sound. We can't hear you.
Oh,
you want
can't hear me?
I don't know if you muted or unmuted.
Hello? Anyone hear me now?
Nothing. Sometimes if you... Oh.
I'm going to unplug my cam and plug it back in.
Can you guys hear him? Can you guys hear me? All right, you can hear him. So I think that might be.
How about now? Am I coming through okay?
I can't. Okay. All right. Yeah, 1 second. It might be me. Hold on. Okay. All right. Test. Say something.
Hello?
I can't. I don't know why. Oh, come on. Hold on. Maybe I'll just jump in on my phone while I reset. Hold on. All right.
How about now?
Okay, so we can hear. I'm going to do a reset. So we don't have access to the thing right now, but yeah. So yeah, I guess if so, yeah. Do you want to continue laying out your position?
Right. So we take a lot of things on faith. Here's why I have personal faith that Jesus did rise from the dead, right? Because the disciples who were, living with Jesus, who saw him, who lived with him, they all were willing to go to their deaths and be persecuted and be locked up and tortured and crucified upside down and beheaded, all because they so ardently believed that this man was God. And so the best explanation, the most logical explanation that I can think of for why these people would be so sure, why they would be willing to die for this belief, is that they actually witnessed not just the miracles of him healing people and making people who couldn't walk and making people who were blind see, but they saw this person who they believed in die. And then 3 days after his death, they saw him come back to life. I mean, and if, to the extent that which you believe the scriptures, not only them, but 500 people saw Jesus return to life and walk around and talk to them, right? So I find that pretty convincing. And maybe you can tell me why you don't find that convincing and you don't believe that doesn't really, you don't find that evidence convincing at all. Another point, and I'll just hit you with two if you want, just get it all out there, is that, if you tried to tell me, for example, that somebody had... Mom, find me a cup of lemonade. Oh, good. Okay, I will. Is she home? Okay, I will fill that up. Good job. Okay, I gotta go. I'm talking. I'm sorry. Her mom found her a cup with a lid, so she's really happy about that. So if you were to claim that Robin Williams, for example, had resurrected from the dead, I feel like that would be a pretty easy thing to debunk and disprove, right? Like the church of Robin Williams resurrected would not get very far. It wouldn't accumulate many followers because it would be easily debunked. They would find his body. They would find evidence that it was moved. You can't pull one over on the whole world like that, right? Especially when it's such an obviously false claim.
Now we can't because we have technology.
I still find it hard to believe that they would have been able to hide Jesus's body, that they would have been able to, convince the entire world or enough people that this had really happened without anyone debunking it. If it was 600, he might believe it. I don't know what you mean there, Funkmaster.
Well, the idea that, so yeah, Mighty Star was saying 500 people seems like the number that was made up. How could we verify this?
So I think that the point is that what Paul is saying when he talks about 500 people saw him return to life is that if you don't believe me, if you think I'm lying and that Jesus didn't return to life, go ask the 500 other people, right? Because this is written right after his death. This is like me and you talking about Robin Williams. And I'm saying, hey, if you don't believe me that Robin Williams is back from the dead, talk to these 500 other people who saw him.
So that's a question that I've had. As far as I remember, the first or the earliest firsthand accounts were like 30 years after the resurrection event itself. No.
So the earliest manuscripts that we've been able to find, like in terms of when do we believe these books are written? I mean, the earliest manuscripts I think are even older, or even farther after his death than that. But that doesn't mean that we know, when the original writings were put to paper, right?
Right. So then
we know that these are copies of what people have wrote previously. Like that much we know.
Right. So it wouldn't be like if Robin Williams came back, because if Robin Williams came back, then we would be able to verify that. We would be, even if it was 50 years from the moment that he came back, somebody would have video of it and we could play that video. So it
and there
makes
was
sense.
Video. If there was video in that day and age, we wouldn't even be having this debate. It would be
right, because Christianity wouldn't exist, because we would know
exist,
you couldn't pull the wool over people's eyes and
Oh.
make people believe these things
Yeah,
without
I guess
without evidence, because we're used to a standard of evidence, except for the modern religious people tend to have special pleading in this one area where I need evidence for this, and this. But God, I'll just take that on faith.
Well,
and the
I
faith is not the type of faith that is justified by previous experience or what's the word I'm looking for? Empiricism or any of those things.
Sure. And I guess so what I'm hearing basically is that, my claim is that your claim is basically that the early Christian church, right, the disciples, the people around Jesus, founded that they pulled the wool over the whole world's eyes, that they were able to convince everybody of the fact that he had rose from the dead, and that religion was able to start, right?
Okay.
And what I find that harder to believe, that they were able to convince the whole world of something that wasn't true, than I do my explanation, which is that something miraculous actually happened. If that makes sense, I think the best explanation for why so many people were convinced. It's not a question of which one can we prove. Like, we can't prove this. We're looking at history. We don't know. But if you're asking me what's the best explanation, like what explanation do I find more believable?
Wait, explanation for
Christianity basically starting, right? For why the Christian church started and continued, right? And you're saying
that's
that
still working backwards. That's still working backwards, because as Stephen Colbert is saying, Muhammad was a historical person also, and countless of his followers died for Islam and continue to do so and blow themselves up and innocent people with them because of what they believe. And so this is what I'm saying, that I think you and I would both agree that a self-deletion bomber is not a good person, is not doing what God wants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so where do you get the justification to say that this is wrong, but all these people believe these things and they died for this thing, therefore it must be true? Like John brought up Jonestown. They all drank the Kool-Aid, but all that means is that they actually did believe. It doesn't mean that what they believed was true.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't on its own, right? It's a combination of factors, right? I think one thing that is unique about Christians, about the martyrdom that they experienced, especially in the early days of Christianity, before it was it stopped being outlawed, by, Constantine, or I think maybe even before that. Don't want to get my facts mixed up. But many of these Christians not only died for what they believed, which I grant you is not an uncommon thing, right? But they went to their deaths. They were tortured, murdered, and persecuted, all the while proclaiming love for their adversaries, saying, "I love you. Don't judge these people. They know not what they do," right? You see that with Jesus. You see that again with Stephen, who is being stoned and prayed, "Lord, do not hold this sin against them." And then if you wanted to get into more, church history, there's plenty of examples of Christians who not only died for their beliefs, but died loving the people who were killing them.
But again, that still just means that they truly believed. I'm not questioning whether Christians actually believe the Christian faith. That's not the question. The question is what Christians believe, is that reality? Is that in line with reality? And so again, you're just going back to, well, this is why I believe, which you're allowed to do. I'm not telling you that you can't believe in things for bad reasons, but you're not presenting reasons why you're not presenting not bad reasons. You're saying, well, it makes sense to me and it makes me feel good, and a lot of people did it. But when we point out these other things, like Mormons have died, Muslims have died, the Jonestown people died for what they believed in, and all this stuff. And you could go the opposite way around. We could talk about the Westboro Baptist Church being so horrible, protesting at soldiers' funerals, but they believe that they're doing a good thing. Does their belief in the fact that they saying God hates,
no,
I don't have a problem saying it, but YouTube does, join us in Discord. But the God hates Fagiolis. That's not something that again, I don't think that's something God would want, but they believe it. So does their belief in it make it true? If not,
it doesn't make it true. But if I think that other people's belief in a thing, I find it convincing when all these people who lived around that time all believed that something miraculous happened. I find that to be evidence of something miraculous happening, right? And maybe you just think, okay, well, Muslims, believe that something miraculous happened. They're willing to die for it. Does that lend credence to their beliefs? I mean, I guess if I'm going to be
right, that would be your argument.
Yeah, well, I guess if I'm going to be completely intellectually honest, then I would say, yeah, I'd say that does lend a little credence to their belief, right? Like so someone willing to die for a belief necessarily makes me take that belief more seriously.
Okay, so what if I tell you that that all cats deserve to be executed?
I would say, why? That's such an evil thing.
Well, because I'm willing to die for it.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's not just that you're willing to die for it, but the fact that you're willing to die for it might make me hear you out as to why you believe that, right? And so I don't think that this in and of itself, that people are willing to die for it, should convince all of you that Jesus really did rise from the dead. But I'm thinking that my thought process is that when you look at this in the greater context of what was happening in that time, that it does make me want to examine it and see if, well, why did they believe so strongly? What are the possible explanations?
That that there was enough or there's a lack of scientific understanding, and there is enough of a desire to understand the universe that humans, as they always have been in every culture ever, have been willing to kind of plug things in where they don't belong to make a story that makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, so maybe let's try going a different direction. Why are you not a Mormon?
So why am I not a Mormon would be because I find when I read the actual scriptures that were written by the people living in that day and age, I feel like they are credible. I find them credible. I believe that I've got the actual words of people who lived and spoke and, were part of Jesus's ministry. But when Joseph Smith says, I had an epiphany, I had this vision from God, and that doesn't line up with the rest of Scripture, right? I find that not convincing. So, because that he has undone, he's saying that God has changed his mind,
Is that not what Jesus said in the New Testament? That God is no
Well,
longer this evil, willing to kill people and wrathful, and now He's a God of love. Was not that the whole point?
no, I don't believe so. I believe that the entire
So,
story of the Bible, from Old Testament to New Testament, is the story of mankind's fall from grace, how we messed up and how we fell, and then the entire rest of the Bible is God trying as hard as He can to save us in spite of ourselves, right? And so when Jesus comes, that's the fulfillment of the promises that are made in the Old Testament. So I don't actually
sure.
accept, and maybe that's a conversation for a different day, because I'm sure we could get into that
Well, and
on.
yeah, I mean, as a as a Christian, I was never taught that we just we don't that's in the Old Testament, so we don't worry about it anymore. But
Mhm.
literally every Christian that I've talked to since I've started this channel has given me that perspective, and that's so if that's the case, then why don't you follow if the Bible is such a divinely inspired book? Then why don't you follow all of the things in the Bible?
So why don't I follow all of the things in the Bible? So I think to understand the Bible is not as simple as opening any particular book of it and reading a verse and saying we must do exactly that, right? The Bible is not one book. The Bible is a collection of 66 different books compiled over thousands of years, right? So there are parts of the Bible that are written in the form of poetry, that are poetic in nature. And to interpret poetry literally, for example, isn't to necessarily interpret every single word as literal. There are parts of the Bible that talk
Sure.
about religious law, that talk about moral law, that talk about ritualistic law. And all these different parts need to be examined in their proper context. And so to just say, well, why don't you, not cut your hair like the Jewish people do, for example, I think is to take pieces of the Bible completely out of the context that they were originally given it.
Okay, so
Would
then
be
how
my
do you
answer.
how do you determine that the context or that your personal interpretation, which is
Mhm.
going to be different than virtually everybody, how do
Sure.
you determine that you could be more right than somebody else who says no, you have to grow your hair out?
Yeah,
How,
through study and instruction, right? And I
what
could be
study and
wrong.
that's what I'm asking about.
Yeah.
What mechanism have you used to be like, oh, okay, I can see that this part is metaphorical, and this part, even though
Mhm.
even though a lot of people take it seriously or literally, and they like we could go all the way to young Earth creationists and or
Mhm.
whatever. But I don't think that you believe that 7 calendar days we had light before we had stars and all that stuff. But
Mhm.
then and so fine, maybe you're going to say that part is more poetic, but
Mhm.
then the person who says no, actually it's actually true, it's just that when we say days, it's not a calendar day.
Sure.
How is someone from the outside supposed to be able to determine what is actually real?
I don't think that you could. I don't think that without studying, the Bible and studying, maybe the original manuscripts and what was written in those, and taking the context, like knowing what the context was in that time, because something that you or I write today might be completely nonsensical to somebody living 100, 200 years from now, right? They wouldn't have any idea what we meant because they didn't understand the context in which we were speaking. And so my job, I feel like what I'm required to do if I'm going to believe this is I need to actually look, I need to do my best to investigate, hey, what was the context? What did this mean in the context of somebody living, 500 years before Christ, of Israelites living in the desert? Like, what did this mean to them?
Okay,
And
so
what's that,
let's take something like not wearing two types of cloth. What would be what are explain to me why you know that that is in the Bible, which is something that you believe is a divinely inspired book, but you don't follow that aspect.
What, right? So like, why don't I adhere to ritualistic law, basically? Yeah. So
Well,
I
let's just take that one specifically. Let's take a specific thing that you don't have. You have no problem with wearing cotton with jeans, right?
Sure. Mhm.
Okay, why not?
Because I believe that the ritualistic law, that in the context that it was presented in the Bible, right, those laws and those strictures that were being handed down to the Israelites, we're trying to teach them something in that time. We're trying to direct them towards, a greater holiness or sanctification. And I'm not somebody who has got all the answers for you. I wish I could give you a perfect explanation of how that all works. I'd probably, if you give me some time, I could go back and look into that and maybe come up with something a little better for you.
Sure, and
But
like
as
we
for now,
yeah,
I'm going
like
to
we've
say
been
that,
saying, this is meant to be the opening to an ongoing conversation. So just
mhm,
because we don't get to something today doesn't mean that we can't come back to it.
yeah. But I would
So
say that I believe there are certain pieces of the Bible, namely like the verses you're referencing about like the type of cloth to wear, about women, being unclean during their period or shortly thereafter, that were meant to impart some wisdom to the Israelites about basic cleanliness and how you are supposed to act. And even, with the ritualistic law, I think specifically how you're going to be different from the people around you, right? Because the Israelites are living in a time where the people all around them are committing child sacrifice, are, raping, pillaging, murdering. And God is calling his people to be set apart from those people, to be different in marked ways. And one of the biggest ways is circumcision, right? Not a very fun thing to do, right? Not something you'd be all excited to do, but God specifically is instituting these practices to show that his people are different, that if you're going to be his people, that if you're going to follow his word, that you're going to live differently than the people around you. I think that's probably the best I could do off the top of my head for why I don't necessarily follow certain, ritualistic, as I interpret them, like ritualistic law that you might see in the Old Testament.
fair enough.
It
So,
was to prevent mites.
yeah,
Okay.
Sizemore here is saying I actually have an explanation for the claw thing. I think it was to prevent mites and things like the the shellfish and pork were due to methods to cook it properly, not existing yet.
Yeah.
They didn't know that.
And
So
I
they said
think
it was the God. But
that
hold
could
on, wait, wait, wait,
totally
wait, wait, wait,
be
wait, 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 wait,
part of
wait,
it.
wait, 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 wait. So this gets us to the conversation of what is God like? Because if you believe in an omnipresent God, then this doesn't make sense because God already existed in 2024
Mm-hmm.
as we experience it when that was written. So he could have just been like, make sure you clean your shit, make sure you cook your shit. So
Mm-hmm.
let's get to what is this what do you know about this guy? Like the characteristics of this God. And guys, please hit the goddamn like button. Shit. Thank you, God.
What do I know about the character of God?
Yeah, just what is God like? What is
Well, I think we know a couple things for sure about God, and so if we're taking the Bible as evidence of what God is like, right, which I think Jesus did, and as I've already established, I am convinced that he did in fact rise from the dead and was in fact God, and so if he accepts the Old Testament, so do I. And so what I'd say is that the God that we see is just, is perfectly just. He can't allow injustice to be in his presence. That he is loving, and that he is long suffering in his basically his pursuit of humanity. That even though people turn away from him time after time, right, he delivers them out of Egypt and finally gets them out from under the thumb of Pharaoh. And as soon as there's a little bit of hardship, the Israelites go and like create a bronze bull and start worshiping it. And he doesn't just immediately smite them all and say, I'm going to start over. But he says, okay, I'm going to like still try to woo these people back to myself, back to the truth, and try and save them.
so why can't he just do that? Why can't he just make people perfect to begin with?
Yeah, so I think the reason for that and would be that basically God does not want, he did not create mindless followers who have no ability to even question these things, that just serve him mindlessly. I think that kind of makes sense to me when you think about if you could force somebody to love you would it really be love? Would it really mean
No, but if
anything?
not, but to what Mighty is saying, that if the punishment for not loving me was eternal hellfire, then I think that changes the calculus a little bit.
Well, so I can speak to that argument actually. So,
Please.
I've struggled with that personally, right? So how could any crime that I commit in this life be deserving of eternal damnation in
It
hellfire? How could
cannot.
anything that I do be that bad?
It cannot.
Right. And so you would say you can't. And I've also held that belief at times, right? I've literally said that. Like I just don't see. Yeah, thank you. I mean, we just had more angels, exactly. But I think I can maybe illustrate it to you like this, and maybe you totally reject this, but maybe you see where I'm coming from. Okay, so let's say you Lutch, you're walking down the street, and some homeless guy, right, just starts bad mouthing. He starts, being crazy, and you've had a rough day today. You're kind of pissed off. Let's say you slap that guy in the face. You just say, "Get out of my face, man! I'm just gonna let this guy have one."
Okay, fair enough. I'm
Okay.
with you.
Okay. So let's exist in that world. So what do you think the consequences for such an action might be if you were to do
Might
something?
be. He
Yeah.
might. He might. Get up and beat my ass. It might be nothing.
Yeah.
Are we talking physically, or and
I
then?
guess I'm thinking like legally,
So
societally,
yeah, then I
culturally.
mean, he could like if anything from, obviously I could be arrested. Somebody could film it and put it online, and my whole Indian Jesus career is
Mhm.
done. All
How
things like that.
severe of an infraction do you feel like that would be on a scale of 1 to 10?
I mean, pretty high. Pretty high, not because of the result, but because of the lack of necessity. So I mean, I don't know, maybe 6, 7. Just
Yeah, I mean,
randomly
maybe
slapping somebody.
let's say you were actually in fear for yourself. You thought you were defending yourself. Maybe it's not so bad. Maybe it's like
Oh,
a
then it's
bunch of,
not bad at all. If I'm in
yeah.
fear, for myself, then that's totally okay.
Okay. But let's say you didn't need to do it and you slap somebody anyway. Okay. You'd say that's a 5, that's a 6 or 7. That's pretty bad. Okay. But now let's say that, let's say Obama, or no, let's use Kamala. Let's say Kamala Harris comes to your little coffee shop where you're just having your morning coffee, and she's walking around and talking to people, and you stand up and you slap her across the face. What do you think the consequences for an action such as that might be?
Same but more severe.
What, more severe, right? Why
Mhm.
more severe?
Because of
Because it's the
her.
same. She's just a person. She's not.
Well, she's a presidential candidate versus
She's
somebody
president.
that nobody gives a shit about on the side of the street.
Right, right. So she's
Okay.
a presidential candidate. So that's going to be a much bigger deal, right? You could be killed for that, probably. They might take out a gun and shoot you right on the spot for that, because you attacked a presidential candidate. The consequences for such an action would be a lot higher based on who you did it to, right? You would agree with that the person you're doing it to matters.
It does matter. Should it matter is a different question.
Should it
I don't
matter is a
know if it
different
should
question,
matter.
but it does. It does. That's a
Sure. Okay.
reality of our world, right? Is
Sure.
that
Yeah.
I mean, you can, and maybe you don't. What's up, baby? 10 more minutes, okay? 10 more minutes. I'll be right back. Okay, I gotta kind of wrap this up. But the honor level of let's call it their honor level, right? A homeless dude on the street, he doesn't have much honor. No one really cares that much about what happens to him. It's not that big a deal. But if you were to do that to a presidential candidate or the president, let's just say it's the president, based on who that person is, you would experience much higher consequences. So in the same way that you would experience these consequences to a higher degree for transgressing against Kamala, right? God's honor level is infinitely higher than Kamala Harris's honor level, right?
How do you know that?
Well, because if we're talking about a God who is omnipotent, omnibenevolent, omnipresent, and is the creator of the universe, so if we're going to grant, like in this hypothetical, why would God punish people as such? So in your question, you're granting there is a God who punishes people. So I'm saying that person who punishes people, who is great enough to create an eternal existence, create our eternal souls, and create an eternal lake of fire to throw people in, his honor level is necessarily so much higher than Kamala Harris's honor level that when you transgress against him, the punishment does fit the crime, right? When you spit in his face, when you slap him in his face with your actions, with the way you live your life, and you disregard what he says, that you do in fact deserve that punishment. I do in fact define God as omnipresent, omnipotent, and omnibenevolent. And if you're going to try and make the argument for why does evil exist,
yeah, that's pretty much where we're going.
It's been tried. It's been debunked. I find it a little bit.
Okay, well, debunk it then, because again, I don't understand why you're making. You're acting as if God made these rules, and because God made these rules, then that they're automatically they're automatically right. But I reject that premise. Just because even if we are to say that there is a God, just because the God says this, that, or the other, this is divine command theory. So are you telling me then that if tomorrow God decided you're a bad person, you're going to hell unless you essay 5 children every day?
Mm-hmm. So what I know about the character of God, right, from reading the Bible, it ensures me that that would never be something I'd be asked to do.
But you understand what God is going to do?
No, I don't understand necessarily what he's going to do, but I know enough that if I were to receive like a vision of such a thing, that I would know I'm going crazy, right? Either I'm going crazy or that's a demon or something telling me that, because
how do you know?
God does not.
But that's begging the question. You're saying you know that because you know that. How is it that you know that?
Because that would conflict with everything else that he's ever done. That would conflict with everything else he's ever said.
But he's all powerful. Is he not able to contradict himself?
I think that,
and we're not talking about, and when I say contradict, I don't mean, make a boulder too heavy for him to lift. I mean, say this, and then no, I changed my mind. I'm going to go with this.
Mm-hmm.
So if your standard is God says what is right, therefore whatever God says is right, regardless of how we feel, then when God says, again, theoretically, I'm not saying that this would happen, but I'm saying that if it did happen and you got a message from God that you believed was from God, that he was like, hey, I work in mysterious ways. I know you're not going to understand this, but something's happened. And starting tomorrow, anybody who wants a ticket into heaven needs to essay 5 children every day. It's God saying that to you. What?
No, I grant you that my position is that my morals come directly from God. There is no good, there is no bad outside of what God tells me to do. So no matter how terrible it was, if God actually came and told me to do something terrible, I would consider that the right thing to do. Now, would I do it? I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of things God tells me.
Why would you even question it? What would there to even be to question? If God says, I'm for sure this is morally good, what would there to be even to question?
Yeah, so I mean, there are plenty of things that God tells me to do that I do not do a good job of, right? I'm not strong enough to actually follow through on my convictions. So if you're asking me, would it be the right thing to do if he said to do something terrible in this hypothetical, which I think could never exist, right? Yeah, it would be the right thing to do something terrible. Would I do that thing? No, probably not. I'm probably not strong enough.
So then you don't live by command theory.
I try, but
you use that as a basis, but you then filter that through your own human rationality to say, okay, well, God said to essay the kids, but I know that that's not right, so I'm not going to do it. So it's not God is not your ultimate authority. You are your ultimate authority.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that God says that to do that, but even though it he wants me to do that, I'm not. Even though that's the right thing to do here, I don't have the conviction that I could follow through on it. Right? I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do. I'm not saying I know
only good Christians would be essaying 5 children a day. And you're not good enough. You're not worthy enough of God's grace because you won't essay children.
Well, in this ridiculous hypothetical that would never happen.
It's not that hypothetical. It's not that you're only saying it's ridiculous because you know what the past has been.
No, I mean, what evidence do you have that God would ever suggest such a thing?
I didn't say I did, but he could. and you don't, what evidence do you have that this God exists, that this God has divine command theory, and that there is absolutely no way that it could possibly be, how God works and all the things that God does, it is going to fall within your human rationality, because if it doesn't, God wouldn't do it. So God only works on a human rationality. So then why do we need God?
Yeah, so I think, I hear what you're saying. I think maybe we'll have to pick that up at another time. I do kind of have to run. Can I just finish up with my conclusion real quick before I have to go?
Yeah, sure. Let's just welcome our boy Guam Tech. Welcome to the party. See ya, brother. Let's let you get through that and see if Guam Tech has a question for you before you dip out of here.
Yep. So basically, if it is true that God did claim to be God, right, or that Jesus did claim to be, it's okay, baby. I'm going to put you a new show on for you. It's okay. If he claimed to be God and he wasn't God, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I can't even finish. I've got to go. All right. My poor baby.
All right, brother.
Thank you so much, guys. I will try and come back and do a better job of this next time. And hopefully I can have someone who can help with the kid a little more.
All good. Thank you so very much for hanging out. Everybody put Jetstream in the chat. Thank you so very much. You have a good one. All right. Well, we got my boy Guam Tech. Welcome. I did not expect him to dip out that quickly. I had a bunch of your guys' questions here starred, but like I said, that's going to be the beginning of a long stream or a long-term conversation. But how are you doing tonight, brother?
I'm all right, man. Just a nice long day of getting my ass kicked, but it's all good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but it's all good.
You guys let me know if I need to turn them up a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, just another day. But how about yourself, man? How's that end up going? I came in a little bit late.
So, I mean, the one of the first things that I started was Am saying you're asking for proof, but he's telling you that he's not giving you proof. He's giving his perspective, which is fair enough. But this is a debate on, does God exist? Yes or no. So you can't come into a debate and be like, well, I don't have any proof for this, because we just watched Jesse do exactly that same thing with Destiny. And that's not what the conversation is. And so if we're just having a chill conversation about, hey, what do you believe? Hey, I believe this and I believe that, and you whatever, that's fine. But if you're saying specifically, I want to have a debate on this particular thing, then unfortunately, proof is what you need. And so I think he definitely has interesting perspectives, but it comes down to the same thing. It all comes down to the same thing. Shout out to the liquidated. Yeah, here for the proof. Can you prove it? Can you prove it? If you can't prove it, then you're just saying, this is what I think. And that if it doesn't cause you to do horrible things, then great. But that is not a way to convince people that they should behave this way. And that's fine if he wasn't trying to do that. But this is where people who need to be convinced, this is where we're coming from.
And forgive me if I'm already treading on any ground that you guys have already gone across and whatnot. But did he ever get to ask you what your criteria for proof would be?
No, but that's not really a good question, because I don't know, but God would. That's my answer. God knows exactly what it would take to make me believe in him. Because even if I saw something that in my mind, I'd be like, oh wait, is that God? Then immediately my mind would go to, maybe it's God, but it could also be a hallucination or this or that or something else. So
and the
that's,
only reason I ask that is would it have to take a materialistic thing to happen for you? Would it have to be a message of some kind? I'm just wondering what would probably be the best proof that you would be able to see? I
really don't know, because again, I would have no way of knowing, and this is why I ask other people the same thing. I would have no way of knowing of what that is, whatever that is. How do I know that it's really God? How do I know that I'm not insane? How do I know that it's not an alien? How do I know that it's not somebody with some brand new technology that can project whatever it is, and it's just somebody playing a prank on me?
Right. Yeah, and that's honestly where I come from on a lot of it too. Like, even though I believe in God, if I ever saw it in front of me, I would still probably deny it, because I'm like, with everything that has been said in every kind of religion, you're not just going to show up and basically decreeing to the world that you have come and that you're here to save us all. Like, I just don't see that happening. And again, I'm not a Christian, so I don't necessarily follow that book the way that a lot of Christians do. But I personally just don't really see something in any way that like everybody would actually be able to see it that way. So I mean, I know I'm not going to be able to add much to the conversation as far as like being able to prove God, but it's coming from a middle ground on it.
Yeah, and I understand it is. I understand it's tough, but that's the reasoning. And so then when we get to other stuff like Stephen Colbert's bringing up slavery, mighty Sarlacc is perfect justice good when you give an infinite punishment for finite crime? How about what is the punishment for simply not believing in God? All of this kind of stuff. It just doesn't really. It's not convincing. And so Michael's saying proof is not something anyone lives their life by, but it absolutely is. I think that in every other area, this is my contention, is that in every other area except religious faith, it is precisely what people live their life by. You take Advil when you have a headache because you know that there is proof that it works. Otherwise, why would you take it? You go to the doctor because when you break your leg, because they know that if you do this, you put it in a splint, that it's going to fix it. We have proof of that from all the work that we've done before. So it absolutely is what people go by. Now, that doesn't mean that people can't follow faithful things blindly, but I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think people should be. Oh, sorry. I don't think people. What am I doing? There we go. I don't think people should be doing that. And that is my entire contention, is that we should have proof for why we do the things that we do. And so if you do the things that you do because you have faith in that, if it happens to be the fact that I agree, then great. But if you're going to try to say that I need to do this because this is what it is, and I have faith that, but I don't have proof of it, well, then I'm sorry, but anybody else can say that about anything else.
Yeah, but wouldn't you also say that like people or are religious, their goal isn't necessarily to prove that God.
You're kind of breaking up. Are you on Bluetooth? Maybe if you want to. Yeah, you're kind of breaking up. If you.
There we go. Is that any better?
Yes, much better. There you go.
Hold on. Okay. So wouldn't you say that, like, it isn't necessarily that people who are religious or believe in God, that their goal is to prove that God exists?
Oh, did we lose him? We lost you. Oh, sorry, brother. We lost you. I don't know what happened. If you wanna try coming back in, try it. So Stephen Colbert was saying there are thousands of religions people believe in fervently. Critical thinkers just believe in one less. Yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you want to, like, there's a difference between saying this is the way that I live, and that I'm going to try to convince you that you should live this way, or at the very least, that I have the justification for believing that I should live this way. And, that's just not convincing. That's just not convincing, because people of other dogmas can say exactly the same thing that you and I would both agree that just does not, is not part of reality. So as I said, I believe all things that are real exist in a scientific way. Bingo. Even if it's beyond our understanding, there is a science to God if one or many exist. If there is a science to it, it can be proven. And I'll take it one step further. Maybe it is the case that there is such a thing that we would call a God, and that we can never get to a place where we can understand that. You know, as Richard Dawkins says, we're medium-sized creatures made to understand a medium-sized world. We're not good with the very big. We're not good with the very small. And so if if it's just a matter of I don't believe that supernatural makes any sense. Something either exists or it doesn't exist. If it exists, then it's natural because it exists. And if it doesn't exist, then it's not natural because it doesn't exist. There's no room for supernatural. It either exists or it doesn't exist. Shout out to Christian Packard. Welcome to the party. Let's see if we get him back up here. We got Jetstream. Welcome back, sir.
Sorry about that, dude. My kid was having a moment, so I had to go handle that.
All good, all good.
Okay, I probably can't turn my cam on, but I can definitely talk. So one problem, so I'm hearing everybody go back to, well, we need this evidence. We need this proof, right?
Bingo. Yes.
That God really did rise from the dead. But I guess the thing that I find troublesome about that is that, you know, I think we talked about the problem of induction, right? And are you familiar with that? Have you heard that one recently?
Not recently.
Yes, sure. Yeah. So let's say that you're a chicken and you live in a chicken coop. And for your entire life, every single day that you've been alive, and as far as you can remember, all the empirical evidence that you have tells you that when that farmer comes, he's got feed for you. He's got some food, right? And so you run up to him. You're happy. You can't wait to get the food. Until one day, that farmer comes and he's got an axe and he's here to chop your head off, right? How could you possibly have known, based on your empirical evidence, what the truth is, right? Like that was going to happen. You couldn't, right? And so in a lot of ways, these things that we believe about what truth is and what facts are bound by this same problem of induction. So just like when we were talking about, well, why doesn't it float to the ceiling and why doesn't it fall to the ground? Just because it never has in recorded history doesn't mean we're not just like those chickens sitting in that coop. And one day, what we think is supposed to happen, what we think are the laws of the universe, right? That the farmer brings food. We're going to see that, hey, that's not the case, right?
I agree.
See what I'm saying?
Yes, I agree. But again, just because you use the floating out of bed example, just because it is possible for me to step out of bed, despite me having faith that gravity is going to continue to exist and that I won't float out, there could be a reason that I do actually float out, float up.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that it's God.
Right. No, I'm not saying that means it's God. What I'm claiming here is that that means that your beliefs about reality are not, in fact, beliefs about, but are, in fact, faith that you have. It's not a fact. It's not that you're believing facts and that sort of thing. You're having faith that tomorrow the same rules of physics that apply tomorrow will apply tomorrow that applied yesterday and for the last 1,000 years, right?
Correct. And so then the question becomes, why do you have faith in that thing?
Right.
That
so that's
every single person ever who's ever gotten out of bed has always gone to the floor and not to the ceiling. So I have faith that will happen again. What evidence do you have that would lead us to believe, lead a third party to believe? So again, if you don't know anything about what it's like, you've never you've been in space, you were born in space, and you've never been on Earth or whatever, why would that person have a reason to believe that they would float away any more than anybody else?
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't know anything. They would get touched down on Earth and they go, "Oh, okay, I guess you sink to the floor here," and then they would start to believe that.
So what is the evidence that you have that says that it would be reasonable to attribute that if I did float away, that it would be it would be God, or I guess I'm not getting the connection to the existence of God.
I'm responding to people saying, "Well,
welcome, Christian.
There's no proof here. There's no proof that Jesus rose from the dead," and I'm trying to say that you don't live your life based on proof. You live your life based on what you. Okay, but we just established that there is no proof that the future will be anything like the past, right? So empirical evidence is not proof of anything.
This
right?
is just some, yeah. But when we say proof, we're talking about a level of confidence. This is on the backdrop that obviously we can't know anything 100%. So when we say we know things, when we say it's a fact, when we say 2 + 2 is equals 4, that's a fact. That there could be some, I was just watching Lost. There could be some anomaly where there's 2 of these things and there's 2 of these things, or there's quantum mechanics and something in an equals 5. Yes, but that's not really what we're talking about. So let's bring in our friend Christian Packard here. Welcome.
So I think one last thing I'd like to hear.
Hello?
Like to hear in that case, right? Okay, go ahead.
How are we doing? I'll come right back to you, Jetstream. What's going on, Christian?
How are you? Am I too loud?
Nope, all good. Welcome.
Cool. No, I was just sitting back listening to Jetstream. I didn't want to intervene. I mean, unless you want this to be like a free for all.
Well, okay. So I think I just wanted to bring you in. So I think Jetstream had some more to say. So
yeah.
Go for it, brother.
I would just like to hear. So in if I'm understanding your argument right, like that, there's just not enough proof. You're just, my evidence doesn't rise to the level of proof, which I guess in your case just means it's not convincing enough that you find it to be a certainty, right?
Or I guess close enough to certainty that I would live my life that way. So let me give you an example. If you had a headache, and to use the example from before, that we take Advil for headaches because we've done studies to see that does work. And so even though it is very, very possible that you could take Advil and it doesn't work for a myriad of different reasons, then we have a reason to have faith in the fact that taking the Advil will help the headache. So what then if I say, okay, you have a headache, take this. It'll not only solve your headache, but you'll never get a headache again. Would you believe me?
No.
Why not?
There's no evidence of that ever.
So then how is that different than the position that I have to what you are saying? You are saying, take this, it'll make your life better. And I'm saying, I don't believe you. And you're saying, why not?
No,
same reason that you're not eating this.
No, I'm not even saying why not. Here, I'd like to maybe change the tack a little bit. So, okay, so I'd like you to maybe try and prove something to me or to a third party. So let's say that a third party touches down on this planet, like you suggested previously, and you're trying to convince them of the facts that you're aware of about how life came to be on this planet. So what argument would you make to convince me to rise to the level of proof, as you so call it, that evolution is a real thing that happened, that because of evolution, we have iguanas and we have birds and we have dolphins and we have whales and we have little tiny bugs that are microscopic. So tell me how make that argument.
I would have to do some research. I don't have it off the top of my head because it's so fundamental that I haven't really looked into the specifics of evolution for quite a while, but it's all there. And I would just refer to, go all the way back to Darwin and the people who were had issues with Darwin and people who, and again, follow the people in the same way that you are, referring to the writings of the Roman historian Tacitus. Then if that, look at those people, and when those people have theories, then those are tested and we see that it actually maps out, then what else do we need?
Well, I mean, just if it's so fundamental and it's so basic, I think you should be able to make a somewhat convincing argument, right? So convincing.
Well, right. Again, I which I could do with time. I just don't have that information readily available in my head. But coming back to this, I don't. What did the chicken thing have to do with anything? What did the chicken thing have to do with dismissing the need for proof of God?
Okay, the problem.
I don't see where you were going with that.
You're saying, well, because people are saying that they need things to be proven to them, and maybe we should define our terms a little bit there with proof, because to me, proof is beyond any reasonable doubt, right? That there's no way that you could doubt.
Well, those are two different things. A reasonable doubt. It's beyond reasonable doubt, but you can still have. It's not reasonable to say that that gravity doesn't exist, but we know that gravity doesn't work the same all the way throughout the universe.
Sure.
So it's reasonable to say that it's a fact that gravity is going to work on Earth. That doesn't mean that, or in most of the universe, that doesn't mean that when we add different factors, that gravity is going to act the same.
Right, but so like the chicken would say, hey, it's proven that there is no possible way this farmer is going to kill us. And how is that proven beyond a reasonable doubt? Because of all this empirical evidence. Look at history. Look at all this proof that we have that the farmer has always brought us food. He's never killed one of us, not as long as I've been alive, right? Not as long as.
But that's not true at all. That's exactly what the farmer does. You're just not aware of the fact that he's been killing chickens.
Well, you're not aware. Well, because it hasn't happened in your lifetime. Let's say that the farmer hasn't done this as long as you've been alive. He hasn't.
Okay, I get that part. So tie that to the reality of what of
what we're talking about. Yeah.
Why we need or don't need trust in God.
Well, because I'll never be able to prove something to you, but beyond a reasonable doubt. Nobody is able to prove anything to somebody beyond a reasonable doubt. At least not, outside of 2 + 2 = 4. These basic truths.
Okay, but fair. So then we get down to a level of reasonability. So I don't think that you would have an issue with, despite the fact that you don't know where Morty is, that it is reasonable for you to have faith that Morty's sitting on my lap, because you always see that he's either on the couch, in the chair, or in my lap.
Mm-hmm. But it hasn't been proven to me beyond a reasonable doubt that he hasn't vanished off the face of the earth, or that there even ever was a Morty, right? That's not proven to me. It's just I have evidence.
You've seen video that Morty exists, and so again, that is it possible that there's a deep faked dog running around all the time?
Possible, yes.
Possible, but is that a reasonable thing to think? That a reasonable thing to think?
I mean, it's if somebody were to make that argument, I mean, there's a chance.
Would you believe them? If somebody made the argument that the Indian Jesus doesn't actually have a dog, that's actually a deep fake, would you believe them?
I personally wouldn't. No.
Why not?
I would find their argument unconvincing.
Why?
Because I've seen the dog with my own eyes, but at the same time, as I would say, here's how I'm going to live my life based on the evidence that I've experienced. If we're going to zoom out a little bit, the problem with my faith in Morty's existence is that I'm just like the chicken. I don't know if the future will follow the past. I don't know if the empirical truths of the future are equal to the
empirical. Fair. So then let's take it a step further. So then if I said, okay, the whether or not let's just use the afterlife, that you're going to heaven or hell based on whether you believe that Morty is in my lap right now.
Mm-hmm.
That changes your incentive to pick whether you're going to say that actually I'm not sure, but I believe this, or I'm not sure, but I believe that. Right?
I certainly investigate the claim very, very, very vigorously.
Right. So now you've given exactly the reason that I have the reason for not just, talking generally about your perspective and asking for proof of it. Because now it's not just, well, I like vanilla ice cream and I like chocolate ice cream. It's now what's the word? Where my soul is going to end up theoretically.
Sure.
So if you are asking me to believe something with that much stake on it, then that requires more belief than for you to just say I like rock music. That doesn't. There's nothing there that would need for me to verify before I take your word for that.
100%. I am the guy who's claiming that I worship a 3,000-year-old Jewish zombie. Okay.
I meant to do this. I swear I meant to do the last one. I apologize.
Okay.
I swear that was a mistake.
So I'm not trying to sit here and tell you guys that my claims are not outrageous, right? I'm not trying to sit here and tell you that.
But I am. That's exactly the conversation we're having. I'm saying your position is not tenable, and my position that your position is not tenable is correct. That is the debate that we're having.
Well, no, I'm saying that it's quite. All I'm saying is that it's quite the claim to make, right? And so
extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Right. And so like my evidence is that I want to see if I can send.
Oh, did we lose him again?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
We lost you for a second, but you're good.
Okay, I want to try and send you a video. Would anyone be able to look up the video of it's like something like apostles planning Christianity? It's like a College Humor or something.
College Humor. Oh, College Humor. What is it?
I don't know. Just try apostles plan to fake Christianity.
Wait.
And just do apostles plan to fake Christianity skit. I can't search it myself, or I would. I'm sorry. There you go. The disciples epic prank. Yeah, just play that for me. This is my evidence for why Jesus came back to life.
Wait, this one, the Babylon Bee one?
Yeah, that one right there. So if you can play, I think this will kind of make my point in a funnier way than I could really make it. But this is kind of why I'm convinced he came back to life. Oh, is there sound? Jesus is dead. But stick with me. Stick with me, okay? I have a plan. We're going to steal his body.
Oh, this is your voiceover.
I'm voicing over it. And
got me.
And then we're going to tell the whole world that he rose from the dead.
Well, you can't talk over the video. People can't hear what's in the video.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that they could hear.
Oh, yeah. We can't hear it in here.
Oh, you can't hear the video.
No one can hear it?
Yeah.
No.
The one time I say, guys, if you can't hear the video, please let me know. All right, take two.
Are we all here? I need 100% participation for this to work. Yeah, everyone's here. All 12.
Thanks,
11.
Nick.
11 of us. Oh.
Again?
No,
you're good. You're good.
Well, as you know, Jesus is dead. But stick with me, okay? Stick with me. I have a plan. We are going to steal his body. Okay, I'm tracking with you. What's next? And then we're going to tell the whole world that he rose from the dead.
Oh, you know I'm in.
I love it already.
All right, classic. Then what?
And then we're all going to get brutally murdered.
Could you go over that last part real quick?
Oh, what? We get murdered. What's the problem?
I like it. I like it. I mean, don't get me wrong, Pete. I love me a good hoax as much as the next guy, right? What's in it for us? Do we all get riches, fame, and fortune first, right?
No, get this. You're going to be hated, persecuted, and reviled for the rest of your life.
Okay, guys. Okay, fellas. Look, I gotta be missing something here, right? Okay. I mean, why on earth would we do this? Can we start over?
Oh, okay. We'll start from the beginning. Everybody, for John, your beloved disciple.
So, okay.
If I knew they were going to go over it again, goddamn.
We go down to Jesus' tomb.
Sounds good.
This is really easy.
Then we pay off the Roman soldiers that are guarding the tomb with their lives.
Why would they do that?
Then we somehow roll away the big stone that's in front of the tomb.
Obviously, you have to move the rock first.
Yeah.
And then we steal his body.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Then we tell the whole world that he rose from the dead, and we get brutally murdered for our troubles.
Epic prank, bro.
So I have to point out the obvious joke here is that they would know that they would be getting murdered. They all could have done this thinking, oh, they're going to think that we're amazing.
Okay, guys. Okay, and then what?
Then we all get killed.
Then...
Come on.
When do we see ourselves become exalted and praised?
That's just it. You don't.
What is happening? Anyone hear what I'm saying? This is the most idiotic plan of all time.
Chill out, bro. I mean, do I really have to explain the joke to you? Look, it's that we lie about Jesus' resurrection, and then we all die.
How am I supposed to chill out when our heads are getting cut off?
I literally feel like that guy. I literally feel like that guy.
Or worse, what is wrong with you guys? Thomas! Okay, look, back me up here. I know you can't be cool with all this. I know you gotta have some doubts. Come on.
Doubts? Oh, no, how can it
Okay, you guys
I feel personally
lost
attacked.
it, okay? I am out of here. I'd rather be exiled.
All right.
You get the point, though, right? Does that illustrate what I'm saying to you? Like, why did these guys do it? Why would they do it? Why would they?
So
they
again,
there was nothing in it for them.
This presupposes that they knew what was going to happen.
I think
is it possible that they thought? Is it possible that they believed they believed the same things that you believed, but happened to be wrong?
No, so I think we could definitely verify that these men would know that starting a religion would be blasphemous, would mean all their friends and family would hate them, would mean that they would be persecuted, they would be outlawed.
But if they actually believe, then that's justifiable. If they actually believe it, what's wrong with that? Why does that make it more true that they actually believed it?
And that's
all
what I
that
think
says. All that says is their conviction.
Right.
Again, we can go back to the Islamic self-deletion bombers. They believe it just as much, and they literally say this stuff. They know they're going to die. But because they believe that life is a waiting room and that there's an afterlife with 72 virgins waiting, then it doesn't matter.
So I just let's stay on scope here just for a second. So you explained to me, right, why these people who founded Christianity, right, Jesus and his followers, why would his followers truly believe, right, that he rose from the dead?
For the same reason you do. Exactly.
But I believe
you're in a cult. Why do people believe that you can be born a man and become a woman? Because they're in a cult. People believe crazy shit. Just because they believe it very strongly does not make it true.
Right. But listen, I believe because of my evidence for my belief is the fact that they did this. So you can't say that we believe for the same reason, right? My belief is
I don't know. Right? I honestly I could.
Can I jump in here?
I do say that. Yeah, please.
Can I jump in here? Okay. I'm not exactly going to be here for debate tactics or anything like that. I just I've thought about this a long time, and I've thought of how I can't really convince anybody else to change their position by me just using words and facts and all these things. I can only come to you on testifying of who Jesus Christ is in my life and how he is a personal God. And he's not just a religious God. He's a personal God that I've developed a relationship with. And a lot of the things that I've been known to find out just recently is, truth, you have to have a relationship with truth. And Jesus Christ is the personhood of truth. He is the very word of what God spoke. And
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Because he's shown up in my life. The minute I started becoming intentional with him, he has actually put me in positions where I've been able to save other people. I've been able to provide for them. I've been able to help them through suicide. And I wouldn't have known that unless God said, go talk to that person. And,
how do you know it was God?
Well, it's definitely not me. I mean, you have to.
How do you know?
You don't know. Nobody knows for sure.
Okay, but you're saying it was God.
Well, I would counter that by saying, do you know your thoughts are your own? Because you have to convince yourself of things of what you don't like and you don't like. Well, they're definitely not yours if you have to wrestle with yourself. That's my point.
Why? You've never been in a position where you want something, but you're not sure, and maybe it's bad for you, but you're wrestling with yourself.
I can say that the minute I found out who I was the minute that I let go of who I thought I was. And
wait. So you just said because you can't wrestle with things. And
well, let me elaborate on that. I'm kind of like going a little all over the place, but it's going to be connected in a way I believe will make sense. Maybe, I don't know, because I don't think that you're going to understand it, but I'll try. Basically, I've seen people, they spend their whole lives trying to figure out who they are, and they're constantly put on depression and anxiety medication and stuff like that because they're just enamored with who am I? Who I know I'm not that person, but I don't know who I am. And they spend their whole lives trying to figure that out. And the minute I let go of me trying to define me was the minute that God came in and said, you're my son. That's who you are. And that was freeing for me because I no longer had the iniquities of the world on my shoulders of me trying to define who I was. Because I'm constantly wrestling with myself in my mind. I mean, I hate myself. I did that thing. I hate myself more and more and more. And, you know, I said that thing at that meeting, and I went on Indian's podcast, and I
Can I
said
interrupt
something.
you real quick?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
this is exactly and precisely the experience that I had when I started doing drugs.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
You're
we got
spot
the
on.
hungry dance. Feed the fucking puppy, guys. But this is this is exactly the mentality that I had when I started doing drugs. I was depressed. I didn't like myself. I started doing drugs. I had a social group. I was feeling good.
Yep.
But
well, that's because
obviously we agree that being a drug addict is not a good thing, right?
No, absolutely not. But drugs will open you up to a place where the veil is torn off. The veil of the reality of which you live in is torn off, and you are confronted with yourself.
I would agree with you if we're talking about psychedelics, but I'm talking about pain pills like Oxycontin. I don't think that
that's what you were doing. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying you were taking mushrooms and
no. Yeah. So I spent 5 or so years as a pillhead, and that's exactly how I felt that it solved all of my problems.
Why did you stop doing it?
Because it didn't actually solve my problems, and honestly, it was because I was broke. I was in a place. This was after college, and I was I always held down a job and everything. But I was spending all of my money on weed and pills. I was mixing like Xanax and Oxycontin. Oxycodone or whatever. And then of course the weed. I didn't drink that much, but I still did. And I got to the point where I just was doing that enough that I had to pay for food and gas in coins. This is when a dollar menu still existed at most fast food restaurants. But and so I was just at a crossroads where I was like, all right, like it's very obvious. Either you keep going and you be a drug addict, or you clean this shit up.
Well, absolutely. And I don't mean to. Can I intervene there just a little bit? I can absolutely agree with you that it gives a momentary alleviation of the things that just kind of separate you from reality. It just gives you just a little bit of reprieve, a little bit of breathing room to just not have so much on your back, and you just feel these anxieties of what is to be. And I did that too. I had a coke addiction, and I had a weed addiction, a porn addiction, video game addiction. I had addictions everywhere. It was pretty crazy. I was suicidal, and we've talked about this before. But actually, the minute I gave my life to Jesus Christ, he actually took that from me, because I developed a relationship with a personal God, not a religious God. Because a religious God means I have to do the religious activities and the things, and that will never amount to anything. It will just be another momentary reprieve of highs that I thought would do something. And you'll see that with Christian people. Even Christian people, they're hypocrites. I mean, they go to church just to get cleansed. They go to do the cleansing. But when you develop a real relationship with the divine, because athletes will develop a relationship with who they want to be in the Olympics, and that's an ideal. And you can have a relationship with that ideal for the rest of your life, and you'll categorize how you do it. Jesus Christ is the ultimate ideal, and I can have a relationship with him because.
But so maybe you're not I'm fully understanding where I'm coming from with the drug thing. Is that again?
I do.
So I don't think that making yourself feel this way based on things that are not true is a good thing. I'm not denying that you feel those things, but then we can so I'll give you an example of a conversation I had with my dad. He was saying that we started a tattoo removal business, and there was a guy who was down in the dumps, prison, drugs, all that stuff, found Jesus, and his life was vastly improved, like so.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And it is amazing. Awesome. I'm glad that it happened to him. I'm glad that it happened to you. But my dad's like, oh, you should have him on the channel. I'm like, why the fuck would I do that? I don't want to take the only thing away from this guy that's allowing him to live a happy life.
What do you mean take away? What do you mean?
Well, because the only conversation we would have would be this conversation.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
So I would be trying to poke holes in his beliefs, and I don't want to. I don't want to do that.
Well, that's the one thing.
The idea. Sure. The reason I bring that up is, you are in the same position as when Taylor Wooden. I don't know if you guys, if you're familiar, but Taylor Wooden was up here having a similar debate, And it's always the story that I was in a bad place, and then thing happened.
Yes,
I was in a good place. So obviously, whatever the thing is, you're going to I'm using the term worship loosely, but you're going to worship that thing. So
I think that's really important because
I agree that Christianity, faith, all of these things can bring you from the type of lives that you and I were living to the types of lives that you and I are now living.
Mhm.
And I say that specifically as the atheist and as a Christian, that we both were living in a way that neither of us liked, and we are now living in a way that both of us for each other or for ourselves much better.
Mhm.
But none of that has anything to do with the truth of the claims.
And
That's my issue here.
Can I hop in now real quick, my guy? So,
sure.
Christian. So I totally understand where you're coming from, and I think a lot of the stuff you're saying is spot on correct. The only problem is that when you're dealing with atheists, and by the way, Lutz, you're not an atheist, you're an agnostic. Okay,
I'm an agnostic atheist.
Oh, what if you those two terms are incompatible, sir?
Don't do that. You're opening up a can of worms.
So I love whenever people.
I knew it.
The link is pinned. Anybody who wants to come up, come on up. So when in the context of belief in a god or gods, when we say Gnostic, we are not referring to the philosophy of Gnosticism. We are talking about knowledge. Gnostic means I know this. Theism means a belief in a god or gods. A is a prefix that means without. So I'm without a belief in a god or gods and without knowledge of whether or not a god or gods exist. That makes me an agnostic atheist. They are not mutually exclusive. Agnosticism is not a halfway point in between. Well, it might be, but it means I do not know. So you can be agnostic about. So when I asked before, is Morty in my lap? You could have said I'm agnostic. That just means I don't know.
Exactly. So if you
don't know, but I don't believe.
So here, let me tell you why I think the two positions are mutually exclusive. Okay, and you tell me why I'm wrong. So if you're
muted.
I'm muted.
No,
we can hear you.
Indian. I couldn't hear him. He was speaking, and I couldn't hear him. I hear you now.
So if you are claiming that you are atheistic, right? That means you are without atheism, right? Theism would be the belief in a deity, in a god of some sort.
No. Deity and theism are different things. So a theistic god and a deistic god are two different things. So it'd be a theistic god.
Theist doesn't mean you believe in any. You just believe that there is some greater power. You believe
that's deism. So the difference between a deistic god and a theistic god with a th is that a theistic god can reach into the universe. So if you are praying to this god, if you're asking God to change things, then that is a theistic god. The God of the Bible is a theistic god because he can reach into the universe. The God of Spinoza, like Einstein believed in, is more of there is a entity, whatever that may be, that kind of set things in motion, but can't change things.
Agnostic to me would say you don't have enough information to say to believe in a god. You also don't have enough information to say that there is no god, right? That's agnosticism.
Right.
Atheism, on the other hand, and I think if we just like Googled these terms, that would be pretty clear and obvious. I mean, we can do it in real time if you.
We could do that, but we're getting caught in the minutia of what is and what is not, and I don't.
Yeah, I'll finish my point, and you decide if you want to pursue that any further. But
sure.
Christian, I think you're like what you're saying is true, but at the same time, when you're dealing with people who don't believe in the existence of God, disbelief or lack of belief in the existence of God or God, I don't think
that is not a position that no gods exist. That is a lack of a belief. That just means I don't have that. I don't have the belief in a particular God. Yeah, right. Like deism is a prime mover God. So Cybercore, I'm sorry, but because I don't know who you are, I am gonna have to ask you to cam up if you want to come up, just because trolls be a trolling.
No peepees or buttholes on the stream.
Yeah, we can't be doing that.
But okay, but Christian, I think it's just if you're gonna try to make these, if you're gonna try to convince people, I think we have to reach outside of our
I need you to
experience,
I'm not trying to convince Indian of anything, actually.
Yeah.
I come here to testify of who
Just
Jesus
do that.
Christ is.
Sure.
I don't want to come and convince anybody because that puts me in a stance of I know better than you and therefore you should follow me. And I'm not asking anybody to follow me. I'm asking them to follow Jesus Christ because I can testify and witness to who he is. And that's all I
Right,
can
right.
do. So when I try and convince you, Indian, you are going to take a stance. You're immediately going to take a defensive stance of, you don't know me. You've never walked in my shoes. I was a Christian before. It didn't work. I had pills, and I can never reach into that. And I actually assume and have expectations on what my words are supposed to do to you. And I should never assume a position like that as Jesus Christ, because Christ walked past many people and he never told him who he was. He just did. And people felt his presence and they followed. And that's all I can do. So I come here as a witness to who he is and as a disciple of who he is. So I can't, that's why I said I'm not here to debate. And the ego in my mind wants to ravage people and show them just how amazing Christ is. And that's what Muslims do too. And they're like, you got to come to our faith because we got the one true God. And it's like,
and as soon as anybody provides that reasoning, then I'm there.
yeah, but you could. And that's the thing. And
Okay, then it's reasonable for me to stay skeptical and be an agnostic atheist.
Absolutely. You should actually stay in that stance. But when you get to a stance where mortality is questioned and you become thirsty for your soul, people who have testified to, like I am right now, can show you where water is. That's all I can do. You have to get thirsty enough to want water. I can't convince you to drink when you're already satiated.
So now we're back to the point where I don't want it enough. I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah.
What's that?
That
I didn't say
that you did say that. You said that
I said you were doing something wrong.
That I have to be thirsty, which implies that I'm not thirsty for God, when I am the only atheist that I know that continually talks to God and says, hey, I genuinely would like to have a relationship with you if you exist. I don't know what you could do to prove that to me, but you absolutely do. And if you do that, I will accept that evidence.
Absolutely.
And God has chosen every single day to say, nah, fuck you, Lutch. Every single day.
Absolutely. Of course he would, because that's
right, gang.
It's got to be
yourself better.
It's on your terms. It's on your terms. I had to be
on any
I
terms.
had to be
no.
I had
on
to,
any terms.
You just said your terms.
What? How is that my terms?
He isn't speaking to me. Then he's not real. If you're not going to speak to me, I'm not going to give my life to you.
I did not say the word speak. I said I speak. Well, I said that I speak to God.
Yeah, and he doesn't speak back.
Right, but
therefore, I'm not going to.
Right. So again, I'm not saying that he must speak to me.
Oh, we lost him back.
Oh, right. I thought that's what your qualifier was, that he has to make his presence known to me before I would devote my life to him.
Well, yes, absolutely. I would have to be aware that this is, before I dedicate my life to something, I have to know that it exists.
Yeah, I don't think God works that way. Me personally, I think
then I don't think God exists, because God made me to think about things in this way. So if God made me in this way and wanted me to be on board with him, then he would not have made me this way.
Well, you have free will. And I want to just
free will exists.
Oh, that's fine.
Free will is not as a nonsensical thing. We understand the Big Bang, and we understand physics and chemistry and electricity. And there is no way that if the Big Bang did happen, that there could be such a thing as free will.
And you are free to do that. You are free to do that, and you will never experience God in that perspective. You have to have
acknowledge reality. So those who acknowledge reality don't get to a relationship with God.
But
no matter how good of a person you are, no matter how moral you are, no matter how much you try to have a relationship with God, if you use your brain that he gave you, because you don't get to choose what you believe. You don't get to choose what you believe. You don't get to choose what you're convinced of.
May I
speak
convinced just for a second? Can I just speak for a second? I just want you to understand that I can only speak from the Christian perspective. And the Christian perspective is that your brain is catered to this world, and Jesus Christ is not of this world. If anything, he is counter.
How do you know that? How do you know that? You keep making these claims. You're just throwing out claims to say, "Well, I can't answer this because of this claim." And I say, "Okay, I'm willing to understand what you're saying, but you have to understand that you're just throwing out claims and you're not saying anything. You're just saying, I think these things. I know you think these things. I'm very familiar with what Christianity is.
Brother,
what I'm not
with you.
convinced of is why somebody should think those things.
Brother, I understand that. I'm saying I have a book. I follow a religion. I follow the book that God gave me.
And I'm
That's
asking
all
why.
I can go off of.
And
Okay,
the whole conversation here was supposed to be, does God exist? And so we are asking the question, does God exist? We are debating the question, does God exist?
You'll
And
never
so
find him in that.
if
You'll never
I'm
find him in that.
Let me
I'm sorry.
let me hop in here, Christian. Let me hop in. So
Sure.
I'd like to.
I'm gonna actually have to back out because
all right, well, thank you for
it will
coming up,
never
brother.
happen. I respect you. You have to be attached to the true vine of Jesus Christ before you can experience the beauty of God.
As soon as you know as soon as you tell me how you know that, then I will believe you. But people say a lot of things, and I can't just go because of a person that I don't even know what they look like says a thing. That doesn't make that's not a good way to go about your life. If
You'll
it's
get
not,
to 90 years old, buddy.
can we agree that it's not a good way to go about your life to take to take advice from random strangers you don't know?
Yes,
Mm,
I
okay.
agree.
So then it can't be bad that I'm not taking what you're saying.
it depends because I know Jesus Christ have saved a couple people
Okay.
that on the street that
How
I've met.
do you know that? I'm asking.
They're
I'm saying
strangers.
okay. I accept that you know that. I'm just asking how you know that.
I told you I can't know. I can only tell.
You just said you know.
I can
You just said I know that.
but I can't prove to you what I know.
Then how do you know that you do in fact know it?
I believe it. That's exactly
That's
right.
a different
Jet
thing
stream.
than knowing it. Knowing and believing are two different things, as we just explored with the atheism thing.
You live in the
You
know.
said you
I
know
live
it.
in the belief. I
Okay,
believe.
and I right. And so a lot of people believe a lot of
See
things, and a
how
lot of people
much
that believe things are not in
there is.
accordance
Like
with reality.
it's blown
So
up
when
into
I
so
have a
many
reason to
things.
believe something because it comports with reality, then I will believe it. Until then, I remain skeptical.
It never will because
As an
Jesus Christ is
intelligent
out
person
of
should.
this world.
As any
So you'll
intelligent-
never encounter him. You'll never encounter God until you step back from the world.
And that's his fault, not mine.
No, that's yours.
There we
Let me.
If I may.
Yeah,
I'm a
go
good
ahead,
person. I was born in the church, but it's my fault because God made my brain the way that it is. How dare I? How dare
Your brain's not the same as mine. What are you talking about? You have free will, and you don't believe in free will, so you will never be able to believe the things in which you need to know
As I just explained,
to
I don't-
experience God.
Hold
So I'm gonna leave because you're getting super excited and anxious, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to.
Why not? I'm having a good time.
I mean,
I appreciate you.
I genuinely love you. I always pray about you. I always will. I genuinely want you to have an encounter with God, and I just want you to know that I truly love you. And if you ever want to talk outside of viewing platform, I would love to do that, and I would love to show you the beauty of
Come on
God.
through, join the Discord. We're in there every after every stream.
Peace, brother.
All right.
Peace out.
Let
Before
me
we go there, we got a super chat from Unwanted Foe. Thank you so very, very much. Let's get our boy his treat here. So you have to believe what the Bible says is 100% truth before you can believe God is real. How does that make sense? It doesn't.
No,
It doesn't make sense.
that's not what I would claim either. That
Pretty exclusionary.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite go that way, Unwanted Foe. What I would say is that if you look at and so one thing I just want to say about Christian is that what he was saying, I think, in very flowery language, not that that's bad, but
Thank you for joining us, Christian. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for your perspective, and I do sort of agree with him, right? That I can't convince anyone of the of God's existence or not. I can't actually save anyone. I can't save anyone's soul. I can't really do anything except like present, maybe the message, present my beliefs, and then, encourage people to try and figure out what they believe for themselves and why they, what evidence they find convincing and what evidence they don't find convincing, so I think that he's right in that tactic, right? That as Christians, it's not like we can reason you into heaven. We can't do that. We can't convince you into heaven.
Well,
the hope is
God failed. Then God failed. Then God failed. That is a failure. You can do anything, and you can't even give humans that are capable of rationality a rational reason to believe that you exist. That is what I would call a failure.
You think that's a
let's say
failure on God's part? Yeah.
Yeah. So Hugh's saying here that that is a predicament for proselytizers. If an atheist requires faith and the removal of skepticism to convert to a religion, then how can they be sure that they convert to their religion and not one of the other thousands of others in the world?
I mean,
why would you? So if I told you that I was a Muslim, you would still think my beliefs were wrong.
True. That's true.
So what? But for very different reasons.
Right.
But still only because you believe you're right.
Well,
not because you have reasons as to why yours is more rational or theirs is less rational. It's just, I believe this, therefore you must believe this or you're wrong. That is the argument that you're making. I know when it's simple, when you simplify it, it doesn't look as good for you. But that's literally what you're saying.
Oh, no, come on, listen. I've provided you with claims, with evidence that convinces me that those claims are true, and I didn't really get a chance to say, but with the logical implications of those claims being true, right? So you might find my evidence unconvincing, and you might find my claims to be false. I assume you do, about the resurrection.
And that's my fault.
No, not that that's your fault. You're just unconvinced by the evidence that I find convincing. That doesn't mean that.
So that means that your evidence is not convincing.
Right? Yeah.
Here's the issue.
And that's the issue. Okay, yeah. Let's go ahead and
Cybercore, aka Size More. What you got for us?
Hello. But we all believe things. I believe dogs like me.
Okay.
I can't prove that.
You couldn't prove that.
But my
absolutely could prove that. What are you talking about?
my
problem of induction.
I can't make you think like a dog. You don't know that the dog isn't just
no, but you could go up to dogs and you could see if they like you or they don't like you. What are we talking about?
I don't know how a dog thinks. I'm not the dog whisperer. I'm not the dog whisperer. Look.
Okay, but
maybe some people have that down.
Okay, but here's the thing. Maybe you don't know this, but I am a professional dog trainer. Okay, we have very, very clear science on what dogs do when they think things that are in line with what we think. So when you see a dog wagging their tail, you can infer things from that. When you see their behavior, them shaking their body, when you see hair going up, when you see them licking you, when you see. What are we talking about? You can't tell if a dog likes somebody?
I wasn't serious about the dog. It was an analogy.
I just want you to state that your analogy starts with the claim that we cannot know if dogs like a person or not.
My analogy starts with we all believe in something. We all believe in things that we can't prove. This is fundamental to being human. We all have beliefs that we can't prove.
True.
But to say it works for me, it made sense to me. Life got better for me when I found this. As an atheist, could I not present that same argument to you, but for atheism, that when I let all of that go, my life got better?
No,
that I found
I don't
purpose,
attribute it to the atheism. I don't attribute it to the atheism. I attribute it to the feeling of not being lied to. I attribute it to the feeling of not falling short of God. I attribute it to understanding different modes of thinking through philosophy. I attribute it to understanding how the mind works and why I felt so bad as a Christian that it has logical, scientific, empirical answers.
I feel like I'm agreeing with you and you're disagreeing with me. But
okay,
I say atheism because it's the act of foregoing that explanation of the natural world and then having to seek that explanation elsewhere. A lot of us didn't give a fuck about how science worked, how space worked, how biology worked, because we felt we already had the answers in text.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
When you no longer have faith in that, you have to seek it elsewhere.
Well,
and
I wouldn't say that,
the universe existing from nothing can be a beautiful thing. Our existence can be a beautiful thing. And I don't think you're forsaking meaning by not being in a religion.
Well, I agree. I've never had more. I've never put more value in human life, my own life, my experience on this earth, until I fell away from believing that this was just a waiting room to get into the next part.
But then I would have to argue that your belief in the value of human life is not based on any evidence and is just as much an act of faith, an act of religious exercise as my religious belief, right? And here's why I say that, Lutch, because
because it's based on science.
Well, but if you really are just a meatball flying through space with just enough intelligence to realize that you've been thrown, right, with just enough intelligence to realize that you're this marble rolling down a track, right? Then if you
holy crap, we are going fast.
Oh yeah,
thumbs up, puppy. It's like on a cat. Lutch wants to kill all cats. I heard him claim that earlier tonight. He wants to murder every single one. But
we
if
have
you
any
are, if
evidence
you're
of
just
that?
a meatball, man, like then why would that life have any meaning in the grand
It
scheme
doesn't
of
have
a
any
1,000
meaning. It
years?
doesn't have any meaning. Again,
Yeah.
that is the most beautiful thing about all of this, is that it is just here. We are just here. And you can do whatever you want. If you want to be a piece of shit and go around and fuck other people's lives up, you can do that. If
It is then on
if you
you
want to
to give
spend
it
your
meaning.
time creating art, if you want to spend your time having conversations like this and building community and making things better, then you can do that too. Whatever your purpose is what you decide. If you decide to have a shitty purpose, then you're probably a shitty person. But that none of that has anything to do with the evidence as to whether there is or there is not a God. Saying
Right.
I don't know where you could find purpose without a God is not an argument.
No, I wasn't
God does
making
not
one.
exist.
I wasn't making an argument that God exists based on.
That's what we're doing here.
Well, okay, but I was just saying.
Does God exist? That is the question that we're having.
Okay, so I think based on the evidence that I've presented with the disciples, that we have reason to believe that Jesus did in fact rise from the dead. Right now, you can be unconvinced by that, and you can say, I don't think those disciples, unless you've already raised some problems or some reasons why you find that argument unconvincing. They could have truly believed it and been mistaken, right? Aliens could have taken Jesus's body away, right? Jesus could have been an alien. Heck, we could all be brains floating in jars. All of these are possibilities.
Right.
All of these
so
are
why are you picking one?
Because I find that the most likely possibility is that the disciples weren't like those guys you saw in that skit jumping around saying, let's all get brutally murdered. That they actually truly believed it. And so if they were true believers, Clutch, if they
I
truly
agree they were
believed
true
it,
believers. We went over this.
but
They
then
could
now
still
you
be
have
true
to
believers that were
explain to
wrong.
me- So now you have to explain to me, why were they true believers in a resurrection that didn't happen?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
So that's why I
but
find my argument.
you're saying because you're using the fact that they believed as a justification that is true. Again, people believe in Islam. People believe in Mormonism. The fact that people believe it and are willing to die for it does not make it true. That is not how logic works. And you keep coming back to that argument.
There were
I don't
people who
understand
knew
why.
Joseph Smith who corroborated his stories.
Say again.
We knew Joseph.
There were people who knew Joseph Smith at the time he was alive who corroborated his stories and told everybody, "Hey, everything I saw it happen. Everything this guy is saying actually happened." They called them Mormons.
I haven't made much study of Mormonism, so maybe.
So how do you know it's wrong?
It's a fascinating religion.
Right, so it's reasonable, or it's possible that you've spent the last however many years as a Christian
certainly
believing the wrong thing.
Anything is possible. And
so then why are you up here? Why are you up here trying to convince me to believe what you believe if you don't even know what you believe is right?
Because I don't think that anyone can truly 100% know that anything is true.
I agree, which is why we shouldn't claim we know things that we don't know, and then when the things that we should believe, we shouldn't treat them as if we know them. We should treat them as if we believe them.
And that's what I'm saying is I believe this to be true. I believe that Jesus was real. I believe he claimed to be God, and I understand
that, and that's totally cool. I'm not trying to get
Would you say you don't know it?
But I'm saying that in this conversation of convincing each other of does God exist or does God not exist, nothing that you've said has come even close to convincing me that God exists, which is what we're doing here.
If you say you don't know God exists, but you have faith he exists, does that make you an agnostic theist?
Certainty.
Say again.
If you don't know, but you have faith, but you're willing to say that you don't know that he exists, would that make you an agnostic theist?
Yes. I think everybody should be, everybody who's a believer should be an agnostic theist. In the same way that I believe everybody, I don't think anybody should be gnostic about God. That is silly.
Sure. Yeah.
I guess I see where you're going. It just depends on what you define as belief, as what you're defining know as, right? Like I don't know 100% that God is real or Jesus is real any more than I know that I'm not a brain floating in a jar in a laboratory somewhere.
You don't know that.
Right.
We'll pick right back up there. But first, we got to give a big shout out to the Funk Master General. Just brought us to $52. And of course, guys, you know that when we hit $50, Morty gets his peanut butter. Gonna get it, boy. Gonna get it, boy. Yeah.
Exactly.
Out sponsoring himself, getting Morty the goods. Thank you so very, very, very much, sir. What is this one? There we go. Thank you so very, very much. Cannot tell you how much I appreciate that.
So I hope that, and maybe I'll kind of bring this to a close and just go back to the chat and listen. But I hope that at least what I've done here tonight is to present an argument that actually has claims that you can, reject and provide counter evidence to. And I provided, I think, some degree of evidence for those claims, even if you find that evidence totally unconvincing. Like, that's the evidence that's convinced me, man. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, I'm not
telling you not to be convinced.
Yeah.
I think that may be a disconnect. I think you may be thinking that I'm saying you shouldn't believe that because it doesn't. And I do actually think that, but I don't feel that I have the authority to tell you what you should or should not believe. I think all people should be agnostic on these things, but I'm not telling you not to believe it. I'm just telling you based on what you've said and what everybody else has said in the entire history of my life has not convinced me. I'm not blaming you for being convinced. I don't think you should be convinced, but I'm not blaming you for being convinced. And I'm not saying fuck Jesus like Internet Geek here, even though, it's not cool to leave me in the lurch for all these years. I'm just saying I am not convinced. And again, if we highlight the idea that being convinced is not a choice, you do not have the decision to say, when you give me this evidence, I don't get to determine, am I convinced or am I not convinced? That's a matter of well, what the word is, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think I have a theological explanation for that as well, but it's not a very nice one. I don't think, right, that you can have a universe where God is completely sovereign, like completely in control of everything that happens. Like you're saying, right? Like you don't get to decide if you're convinced by the argument or not, right? So in my worldview, if I agree with that you don't get to decide if you're convinced or not, that you might want to be convinced, but you can't step outside of your body and say, brain, soul, you're going to be convinced by that. You don't have that ability, right? It's either convincing or it isn't. And so how that fits into my worldview is that not everybody that was created is going to heaven. We know that, right?
Do we know that?
We don't. Okay. I say I believe that based on the books I've read, right? The scripture I've read, the study I've done, is that my current theology is actually that some people were created to spend eternity with Jesus, right? Some people were created to be convinced, and then other people's were not created for that purpose, right? Like, for example, the Pharaoh in the story of Moses and the let my people go, right? It's actually kind of talked about in the Bible how the whole reason why Pharaoh was brought up and brought to this position of power is so that God could destroy Egypt with plagues and demonstrate his power against Pharaoh, right? That's why Pharaoh was created. That's why he was born. And so I think that's tough for me even to deal with. I find that harsh, but I'm in the position of believing that there is actually a God who created this universe, and it's not, kind of like Christian was saying, it's not on my terms that he has to meet me and make sense to me. I have to exist on his terms, right? Like the person who is able to come back from the dead, I have to exist in the world that he created and do what he says, and things go the way he says, right?
And again, you're just saying things. I know what Christianity is, man. I know what these things are. I know generally what you believe. We could get into the specifics, but I understand what Christianity preaches. That's not what I'm asking about. I know those things. I'm asking for reasons to think that is truth from a person who is. I'm not asking why you believe them. I'm asking why a third party should objectively be able to take your information and be convinced.
Yeah, a guy comes back from the dead, I'm probably not going to follow him around, if I'm honest.
Zombies! No, I mean, hey, if somebody came back from the dead, I would definitely be interested in how that happened. That's certainly a special person in some way, but that still doesn't get us to a God. That doesn't
Okay.
get us
Okay.
to the Bible. That doesn't get us to
That's why.
Christianity.
Yeah,
There's
that's why
so
premise
much
2.
intellectual work to be done that you're just asking that I accept.
No, no,
It could
no.
be aliens.
Well, no. I'm saying that's why premise 2 is so important. Okay, and this is my conclusion, right? That I never got to finish, which is that if he claimed to be God, if he didn't claim to be God and he rose from the dead, sure, maybe there are other explanations that are just as valid and just as likely, right? But if he claims to be God and he rises from the dead, then there's only a couple possibilities, right? Either he was lying and he's not God, right? Or he was crazy. Jesus thought he was God, but he wasn't. Or option 3, he was God. Those are the 3, not the only options,
Yeah,
but
but that's a
most
big
likely.
if.
The 3 most
If
likely.
he was
Right?
resurrected and did all the things that we believe, then he would be God. That's begging the question. That is precisely what we are discussing. Whether or not he was resurrected, whether or not God does exist, whether or not there was divinity in the Bible, whether or not any of these things are tied to reality, or just the things that are stated in the faith that you happen to believe.
Well, I've provided you evidence for my claim. At least do me the service of acknowledging that
Absolutely, yeah. This is a lot of valid stuff that does not confuse me as to why somebody would take that as a reason to believe in the Bible. But there's a lot of things that people believe that I think are silly for silly reasons. People believe in Mormonism. People believe in Islam. People believe that they're furries. People believe that they're born men and then they can become women. They believe that despite there's only male and female and intersex, that there's 3 categories, even though that's a clear bimodal situation. People believe crazy shit.
Mm-hmm.
What does that have to do with? And they can give you, they can have all the mental. I mean, I'm sure you saw What Is a Woman? If not, I did cover it in full on the channel. Check it out. But they have exactly everybody who can make those discussions, and then they have the "Am I racist?" thing that's about to come out. Same exact type of thing. I've heard this is even better and is more visceral. The fact of the matter is that just because somebody believes a thing does not make it right. And just because you have reasons for believing that thing does not make them good reasons. I understand, yes, you have reasons and you believe the thing. I reject that the reasons that you've presented are good reasons for an objective third party I would not suggest that if somebody did not know anything about Christianity and then they watch this, I would not suggest that they would follow what you're saying.
Right. Well, I mean, and yeah, I don't really think I can totally convince anybody of. I can only present the evidence that I have examined and say, hey, do you find this convincing? This is what I found convincing. So what do you feel like is the least the most let's do this. You tell me the strongest part of my argument and the weakest part of the argument. How about that?
The strongest part of your argument has to do with the historical existence of Jesus as a human being, because it stands to it stands to reason that he was a real person. I'm not even comfortable saying yes, I know for a fact that Jesus Christ from the Bible existed as he was recorded in the Bible, but I don't have enough of a reason to think that that is a fabrication. I don't know, and it seems reasonable enough that I spend my time on other things. So I'm willing to just concede that yes, there probably was a man named Jesus around those times that people followed. That all this stuff. It would be very, very weird if that was completely fabricated.
Right?
Is it possible? Maybe, but I'm willing to just say yeah, I believe Jesus probably was a real person. So that part is yeah your strongest argument, which I'm still not necessarily fully convinced. The other parts are just circular in the sense that you're using the belief of the people to justify the veracity of the claims instead of the actual reasoning behind what they believe is in fact true. Because here's the other thing: what if they didn't believe it? Would that make it not true?
I would have no reason to think that Jesus rose from the dead if nobody who lived at the same time as him and was there when he was killed and was there when he supposedly rose. If none of those people believed that he rose from the dead, I would not believe it either. 100%. Right?
Well, and again, so that's the issue that you have in your categorization. Do a lot of people believe this thing? Then it must be true. Do not a lot of people believe these things? And it must be not true.
Well, but I think
that's not a good way to determine what actually is in reality or not. Because a lot of people believe a lot of things that are not true.
Yeah, but can I give an example of how we do that kind of in our lives? Like, I think people do that. So, so if you were like, say you go to like a town, right? You go to a small town, like, and there are some people walking around this town, and like you're talking to them, and say like one of those people goes, "Hey, there is literally zombies in these woods." You wouldn't really believe that. You'd be like, "What's that guy talking about?" But then if
I wouldn't chance it.
Oh, you wouldn't. There we go. That's where I was going. You beat me to the punch.
I missed it. What did you say?
He said I wouldn't chance it. I wouldn't go in the woods.
Chance it.
Well,
I'm just scared of zombies.
If then 10 people came to you and said, "Hey, like for real, there are zombies in those woods. Like, don't go in there." You still might not believe it. So then, if 100 people came to you, Lutch, and said, "Lutch, I am telling you 100% serious with perfect sincerity. You can see the belief in my eyes that there are zombies in those woods." Would you
All that means is that you actually believe that there are zombies in the woods. That does not mean that there are zombies in the woods. It might mean that there's something in the woods, but you then have to bridge the fact that there is something in the woods that you don't know that then qualifies the title of zombie.
Right. I'm with you, dude. That's exactly.
And so the same exact thing for Jesus. Exact thing for Jesus.
Hold on. I still have a question. So you said that doesn't convince you that there are actually zombies in the woods, right? You're not convinced, even if 100 people came to you and told you seriously, right? But my question is to you now, though: would you go into the woods at night?
No, because I believe that there'd be something out there.
Right. So that's.
But I would more likely think it's a fucking mountain lion than a fucking zombie.
Okay. And you might differ. We might differ on why you know what you actually think it is, but
because I've seen mountain lions before. Nobody has ever seen a zombie before. That's why.
Right. But I'm saying, Lutch, even though all these people, you're convinced that they're wrong, right? Even though they're all in agreement that they're claiming something supernatural, you would still be somewhat convinced enough of their claim to not go into the woods. You'd think something's up here. Something's up.
Yes, something.
That's all.
The argument is,
I believe that there's something bigger than just the material world that we can see, touch, and smell. That has nothing to do with Yahweh. That has nothing to do with Christianity. It could be, as Sizemore said, it could be aliens.
Interesting.
It could be aliens.
Yeah, and
I might believe there'd be aliens in the woods before I believe there'd be zombies in the woods.
I saw an alien once. It was wild. But if you see, like, it's an argument. The argument you're making is an argument from proximity, and that's in the term of the text. And I'm even skeptical that it was. I'm skeptical. I won't go into that, but I'm skeptical on the text. We can understand that. Mm-hmm. But even with proximity, we have examples of proximity witness, where it's not just saying someone saying they believe it, someone saying something is true when they witnessed it. We have examples of this from religions outside of Christianity. We have examples of this from aliens. We have examples of this from ghosts. We have examples from this with Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm. And if you,
so that is the strongest part of the text argument, but it is still one of the weaker arguments.
Mm-hmm. And so,
because it can't all be true.
Well, just because it can't all be true doesn't mean that one of them isn't true. And so I'm not going to sit here and try to refute every single religion that's ever been devised by man.
Well, let's go down that road, because Stephen Colbert is asking what other religions you've studied.
So I've been to a Jewish temple. I have been to a Muslim. I forget what they even call it. I've been to their mass, where you go and you bow, you take your shoes off, right? I wouldn't say I'd necessarily studied. I mean, I've looked into these religions. I've examined their claims, but I mean, to study, I think would maybe be speaking too highly of myself, right? To say I've studied. But Stephen Colbert, I have a question for you. Why wouldn't you get on voice chat if you have so many opinions? Because you seem very quick to poke a lot of holes, but I feel there might be a little cowardice to not even defend your own claims in person.
Oh my God.
Just saying.
Shots fired.
Wow.
Well, to just
Incredible.
go on the
Yeah.
point that he was making, that so clearly you don't know that there might be another religion that already exists that that reaches you better, that does better for you.
Right.
You also don't know if there is a
qualified.
religion or an ideology that is not yet invented that would do exactly what Christianity does, but does it better. I always use the thing that, like, let's assume that God is something that is outside of our understanding. Our understanding is, my friend, God is right here. We get it, we can get it, but and Christianity, if you're an atheist, if you're an atheist hedonist like all those leftists, then you're way down here. You're so far from God. But if you're even if you're a Easter and Christmas Christian and you believe in whatever, that brings you up here. But real practicing Christian brings you up here. Cool. How do you know that there's not something that can even bring you here? My contention is that until I know that there's nothing here, then I will settle for Christianity. But you, the general you, need to prove that is impossible before I settle and say this is the best we've got. A 2,000-year-old book is the best that we've got.
But Les, I can't prove non-existence. You know that's impossible. Just like you can't prove non-existence of God, of Yahweh, and such. So that's a bit of.
I meant to pause the video, but so do Christians. Yeah, and I understand this is not meant to be like, okay, do you guys agree with me now, or I agree? No. It's meant to be an ongoing conversation, and I had some notes here about going into the actual resurrection itself and getting more into the specifics of like what Tacitus was saying and Josephus and all these other things. That might be a good way to because that's pretty fundamental to believing in the faith that Jesus Christ was resurrected. Sure. Right? Like if you were to find out that didn't happen, would you still be a Christian?
No, sir. If you could provide me compelling evidence to prove that Jesus' body was stolen, that this certain sect of Romans or whomever were responsible for moving Jesus's body and responsible for convincing the apostles of his resurrection, then I would renounce Christianity. So
I'll give you a second chance, but if you want to come in the voice chat tonight, I'll give you a fresh slate.
I want to bring up something that it could possibly piss all three of you off, probably two of you. But I want to bring a third part of this in here because the question on the video is, well, not a question, but God is hiding or just is not there. My question is, why the fuck does it matter? I know Lutch has an answer to this, but I've never heard it from the Christian perspective. Why does it matter if God exists?
Well, I think if God exists, can we all agree that I think I have to add something on. So if God exists and we have eternal souls, then that is the most important question to answer, right? Because this world is not our ultimate destination.
It's a waiting room.
The waiting room. Yeah, fine. I'm fine with that language, really.
I'm not. That's disgusting language to me. But.
So,
waiting room.
Coming from a perspective of somebody who doesn't necessarily think that you have to believe in God in order to be a part of God's, universe and the goodness that God can provide, I guess I would ask, if it doesn't matter, then why would any religion really matter in the first place as long as you were trying to live as though God existed?
Yeah, so like I guess you're saying as long as I try to be a good person, won't God be happy with me? Kinda?
Part of that, but also that these religions have obviously had an effect on society, and that we've built a pretty damn good society off of supposedly Christianity. Isn't that enough for someone to be able to get the goodness of God, even if they don't believe in it?
Yeah, I think that the evidence of God's presence has been made known to everyone, right? And not just because I like present you some of the evidence that I find most convincing, but because I think that if you look at the world and you look at the outcomes, I know Lutch is a pragmatist and he loves to argue. Hold on, is Stephen Colbert in here?
No, it's Christian's back. Christian's back.
Oh, dang. Okay. I was about to say, dude. I'm sorry. It's all love. I love
Then we
you.
all just dip out. No, I'm
I
just
love
kidding.
Stephen Colbert, my brother in Christ. He's one of God's children, and I love him. But I would just love to destroy, kill him. No.
What you were saying, yeah. And in the chat, if you guys are hearing something, let me know. But sorry. So yeah, Judge Stream, you were saying.
Oh yeah. Well, just that I think there is that evidence, right? And that evidence can be in the form of how we've established the most free and wonderful society in the history of Earth on the back of these Judeo-Christian values. Guam, like that's I think another thing that I find, not sufficient in and of itself to lead me to believe in God, but like maybe a point in God's favor, right? That look what happens when a society gets together and gets formed based on these values. So,
but I guess I just get so confused over the fact of what Christians really think when it comes to believe in God. Now, I would think that, let's say there was a agnostic Christian. They didn't know if God did exist or not, but they followed the Bible fucking completely. Would that be enough?
No, you can't.
So, but
check.
then who's to say what really is the belief in God? Do you just say, hey, he's real? There we go. Is that enough?
Right.
There's just so much to add on to that. And it seems like people and humans in general just aren't capable of having a real grasp on what it means to believe in God. So that's where I feel like religion does get so much, for as much as it gets right, it gets God wrong.
Well,
As
and
in,
I think to steal some of Christian's language. Okay, you know what? Are you going to use that soundboard equally, or what? Is it a biased soundboard? I'm just messing with you.
I didn't over my head.
But I think like to borrow some of Christian's language, you're like, well, why isn't just being a good person or just living according to the Bible? Why isn't that?
Because God is selfish and an asshole and self-serving and needs to be.
no, people are self-serving and assholes.
Oh yeah,
and they're the ones who tell you that God is self-serving and an asshole.
Very well said, Glom.
Okay, so I think you're trying to say, well, why doesn't God
was made in man's image?
Just come to no, the other way around.
Are you sure? Okay, I'm willing to accept that if you can prove it.
If you can prove that it's not true, I'll accept that it's not true. But neither of us can prove our claims now, can we?
No, I definitely can prove because we have many gods, and if all the gods say that they're not all of them, but many of them are incompatible, so they can't all be right. So most gods are man-made, if not all. If there is a God, there's only one. There's only one faith that is correct, and all of the faiths that say it can only be our faith, they're all wrong, and many of them say that. So they have to be man-made.
Again, middle ground here. I would say that they're not man-made; they're man-interpreted.
No, they're man-made. They are. I mean, they. What do you mean interpreted? Because
is math man-made? Is
again?
Math man-made?
No, that's a natural process of the universe.
Universal truth, right?
Yeah.
Mask man.
And I'd like to point something out. I saw a comment earlier. It's like, if God is omnipotent, right? Can he make 2 + 2 = 5? And I think that I'd just like to rebut that by saying, just because someone is all powerful doesn't mean they can do things that are freaking what's the word I'm looking for? Paradoxes. That doesn't mean that they can engage in paradox. That doesn't mean that they can do things that are you're not even speaking like the words you're saying don't make any sense when you ask, can God make 2 + 2 = 5? Because there's no way for him to do things that are impossible, right? That are logical.
And I'm okay with that. Like, because the typical one is, can God make a boulder that's too heavy for him to lift?
Right.
And I mean, that does mean that the word omnipotent would mean that he could create paradoxes and he could break logic. So I don't know. I personally, why not? He made the universe. He made the laws of the universe. He can answer prayers. He can heal cancer, but he can't make math different.
No, because God is the source of this truth, right? And so to say, can he force what is not true to be true? I think you're not even saying anything that's like intelligible. Like what? Like you're just kind of like throwing word salad at me. I don't.
It's not word salad. It's a very clear thing. You've accurately labeled it as a paradox. Yes, it is a logical paradox.
Yes,
that's not nonsensical.
I think it's a nonsensical paradox. It's to say, can something be so true that it's false? It's to say,
but that's the point. The point is to be doing anything. Then if you say this person can do anything, then what you should be, what the rhetoric should be is, this God can do anything that can be done. There you go. Yeah, perfect. That's a very different claim than God can do anything. Omnipotent by its nature. I don't.
Can I jump in here?
Go ahead.
Yeah. On this question. The only thing I will say is, from the confines of who a Christian God is, when God said, when he flooded the earth with Noah, he said, I will no longer flood this earth, and I will attest to that by putting a rainbow in the sky. And if God is a God of truth and a God of justice, then he has to abide in the words in which he says, or he is no longer the God in which he says he is.
Right.
So he has to
not the God he said
stay. But he said he was. So
okay, but he could lie. So
I don't believe God can lie. I don't. No. Then we're dealing with a person. Then we're dealing with a person.
How do you? What makes what?
Because can truth lie?
Yeah.
But truth is a
facts can be different than truth.
Sure,
but truth can't lie.
So then you're just defining God as that which is
truth.
Is most true, is most good, is most powerful, is most present, is most holy. Yes, God is all these things, by his nature, which is the ontological argument.
So you see how obtuse that is.
Do you see what we're saying?
Just all the good things. There's good things, then there's God.
You're essentially saying it is true because it's true, and truthful is truthness of all truthdom.
No, but can you argue with truth? Can truth lie?
No.
Truth is not. Truth is not a conscious being. Lying implies.
Can fiction speak?
Can
fiction speak?
Truth is a bit maybe.
There you go. That is a nonsensical question.
That's a nonsensical question. I'm sorry. There was so many people talking.
Lie? That is a nonsensical question.
I think it's what he's saying. He's saying, can truth be untruth? Can truth?
Yeah, can truth be false?
Exactly.
And truth
can
be false depending on who's interpreting it.
How? Give me an example.
People thought that the fucking world was flat. People thought
that was never true. That was never true. That was never true. Again, you believe in something, and the truth of the belief are not the same thing. Just because somebody believes something does not mean that is anything to do with whether it is true. It was never true that the earth was flat. So at no point was it true that the earth was flat when the earth wasn't flat.
That's why I said we're looking at God
people believed things just means they thought the wrong things. The same way they thought that slavery is okay, that germs didn't exist, that this, that.
That's why I'm saying we're looking at God from the confines of a Christian paradigm, because that's what the one we're arguing.
I'm not.
Well, it's atheist versus a Christian. So I'm
that's
arguing for.
So that's what I'm asking is for you.
I'm defending the Christian God, and the Christian God would not be able to lie. He would not be able to go against the laws in which he said.
Based on what? Again, you're just saying that.
Based off the Christian doctrine. The Christian
how do I know that the Christian doctrine is right? That is the question.
I don't know if the Christian God won't lie, because he did tell one of his followers to go up a mountain and kill his son.
What's that? I'm sorry.
He did tell one of his followers to go up. I mean, I understand the story. I get the moral of it, but I'm saying
but he didn't lie. He didn't lie. He just
Abraham.
told him to do something and then told him not to do it.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, I'm willing to say that I'm willing to grant that if there were a God and that a God couldn't lie, then okay. But again, you need to prove the God first. You can't presuppose the God and then attribute attributes to it.
May I ask a question? I was very curious about this. I want to answer Guam's question. He had a question as well that was directed strictly towards Christians. So I guess maybe I'll ask him that first. What was your question, Guam?
It was basically, what does it matter if God exists to a Christian? If you're following the book, if you're living a good life, if you're getting the fruits of that, because you're following the book, wouldn't that be enough to say that you're living a godly life?
Certainly not.
Well, I would answer
That's
that
how you
by
get
saying,
leftists. That is how you get leftists.
I fall into the lines of a Christian.
Am I wrong?
What's that? Sorry.
Your opinion is how you get leftists.
I don't ascribe to a leftist or a rightist.
Right, but what I'm saying is that saying that just being a good person is not good enough is how you get. Wait, hold on, sorry, I'm just.
No, I mean,
it's not about the good or the bad. Because we don't know to just get into an argument of what is good and what is bad would become a moralistic argument. But what I would say to Guam is that the thing is I became a Christian because of a pursuit of something outside of myself, because I was not getting enough meaning in my life that could sustain my soul and quench my thirst for life. It just, especially when mortality comes into play and, I have people dying around me and things, and I'm encountering suicide.
Stop, right?
No,
I don't know.
That's not my argument. I never said
Would
that.
you say you set out to find something with the intent to find something?
Yes. And I found the personhood of Jesus Christ, and then that's how I became a Christian. That's how I became a Christian. Ironically, my name is Christian as well, so I was Christian before that. But anyway.
I also, really quick, it took until a Christian really started talking that I realized, wait. That's not the same Christian that I already debated. When I brought him up here, I was like, oh, this is Christian Packer. This is not Christian Watson. I was ready. I was ready for some bullshit. No. I'm glad it's you, brother. I am glad it's you.
But Guam, I would just say to that in that pursuit, I found something outside of myself. And I think when we start to look outside of ourselves is when we start to try to encounter the divine. And, that's what Christianity offers you, or a person who is looking for something outside of them. Christianity says, God created you to be with him, not live in a world where you're just consumed by the world, because the world is utterly consuming.
What part of that do you disagree with, Lutch?
But yet again,
that being a Christian, believing in Christianity, giving yourself to God, going through the rituals will provide you with those things. Maybe for you, but not for me. Remember, I spent 22 years as a Christian, as a believing Christian that would never accept the idea that atheism could be a valid position, and I never experienced the things that you're talking about. So again, I'm glad that you get these things from that thing. I'm glad that you get these benefits from Christianity.
If I may interject,
but the fact is that so many of us cannot.
Yes.
Despite how much we act different or think different or open our hearts or open our minds, we simply cannot get those benefits from Christianity.
Okay. If I may interject, that leads me to my second
I think we do, honestly. I think you do get those benefits.
I'm just wrong about the first 22 years of my life? You're right about how my life was, and I wasn't suicidal. And
no, you definitely were.
I lost faith. Then my life got worse. That's what you're saying, Guam?
Indian.
No, what I'm saying is that you do live in a society that was built off of Christian values. You have those values, so therefore you do get the benefits of having those values. Now, you don't believe in the God, you don't believe in the religion, but you still benefit off of it.
Okay, fine. Then the only difference between them is the only the same way that your lives increased when you had a relationship with Christ, then mine was just the opposite. I'm doing exactly the same thing as you, and I'm following exactly the same incentives. I'm going to do this, what fills me with a spiritual fulfillment. That's why
I say that.
And
that's why I say that, is because you are getting the fulfillment. You are living a decent life
after I've left the faith. And
Well, hold
so
on.
again, I agree that the values come
that's
from Christianity, but it's the truth claim that God exists. For me, believing God exists
in my
was
opinion, that is such a
bad.
small
For me,
thing.
not believing in
Point
God was
of-
In my
good.
opinion, that is
Point
such
of
a
order.
small
Point
thing
of
to
order,
have to
Guam.
worry about, just because you are getting the benefits from it. And that's why I asked the question, what does it matter if you're living a good life because of it and you are living by those tenets?
Okay, point of order. Point of order.
I would
Everybody,
say,
hold on. First of all,
if I may,
What the shit? Get the fuck out of here.
if I may,
Stop. Okay, we've got a lot
If
of
I
people
may.
on here now, and so let's make the conversation as easy as possible for other people
Yeah.
to follow. So I'd like to propose that we maybe institute some time limits around talking, and we try to let each other talk. So 1 minute statements, 30-second rebuttals.
Nope.
I like to let it be free flowing. I think the Holy Spirit will work through it no matter
Cyber, real
what
quick,
happens.
we're getting some cricket noise. If you could just mute when you're not talking, please.
Cyber, yeah, that
Lutch,
was my second point of order. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
just
I don't work that way. I don't
Your
work that
name's
way.
Lutch,
I'm not going to be.
right?
Yes,
It's Lutch. Okay, Lutch. That leads me to my second question. You say you ask every night for God to make His presence known to you. Why do you do that?
Because you all continue to convince me that I'm wrong and that God exists.
Well,
So
aside
if I'm wrong, then I want
us,
to. I want to be. I want to. Have that relationship. I want to be in touch with the truth of the universe. That's why.
I totally respect that, and I actually really appreciate that. Is there other than the people? Is that actually a deep seated need that you have?
Say again. What is a deep seated need?
other than the people like always coming at you and you trying to prove you wrong and stuff, is there actually like a deep-seated need within you to have that relationship with God? If there was a God, do you have that desire?
Yes, if there was a God, then yes, because I want to be in line with reality. And so if that God is a reality, and the way that I have a relationship or don't have a relationship with that God affects me, then yes, I want to have that relationship with God.
So if you have not found enough evidence from any of the gods that do exist in the world and the theologies that exist, why don't you just make up your own God?
I don't need to.
Why
do I need to? Why do I need to?
Well, you ask every night. That's what I'm asking. You said you do have a deep-seated need.
Right. But I am of the opinion that I'm doing A-okay without a God. It's all of y'all that are saying no. The only way is through Christ. And that has simply not been my experience. When I was of Christ, I was I didn't care as much about morality. I didn't care as much about myself. I didn't care as much about my family. I didn't care as much about other people. And as soon as I started to look at other reasons that people think about things the way that they do, I found reasons to care about myself. I found reasons to care about other people. I found reasons to care about my community. I found reasons to care about my country. All of these things gave me the purpose that I've chosen to enact these things that I have found important, and not because somebody from on high is saying you have to do this, and I've never talked to them, and I've never, or they've never talked to me. I don't know that person or that entity exists. What I do know is
so
that
why do you have
conversations like this? What I do know is that as continuing to do this, I do know that if I continue with the morals that I do now have, that I will continue to be a not only happier person, but a better person for society.
So why do you have a deep-seated need for that at night?
Because truth matters. Because truth matters. Because if I'm wrong about reality, then I can't possibly interact with reality in the best possible way. If I don't think of it as a video game. If life is a video game, then why would you not want to understand exactly how the game works? And so you might believe these are just NPCs. You might be maybe you're so foreign to video games and you're playing some first-person shooter and you're online and you're like, no, these are NPCs, and you believe that.
Well,
that's going to lead you to not play as well as if you understand that there's real people behind them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I won't even argue that because I completely agree. You see, and this is the problem that people are undergoing is I can know the truth of Jesus Christ and who He is and what He's done in my life, and I can live that out, and I could come to you and just testify to that. But there are so many people, especially in religion and the things that happen in your life with religion, that you are just so hard pressed to even take one step in the direction of Jesus Christ. You're just like, I'm going to run the other way. I'm going to run towards science because at least I can rely on that. And that's understandable.
I don't think that's
and that is, I know so many people that are just destroyed by the church. They're just destroyed by the church. They're destroyed by religion, and they have no interest in God at all. They're like, I'm living a happy life. I don't need God. And you know what? You don't need God in this life.
Yep.
You don't need God in this life. You could call it a waiting room. I think this is a lot more extravagant than a waiting room, even though I believe in an afterlife. But I live in eternity.
A nice waiting room. But
I live in eternity now.
Your purpose of being here is to where you end up after you die.
No, not at all. Not at all. I don't know who told you that. Some religious person, but that
was how I thought about life. But
that's not what I said. I don't believe that at all. Not one bit. I'm here to have a relationship with God right here, right now, and to actually self-sacrifice for other people. And because sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, to be image bearers for Christ, like that's what we're called to be, is to be.
But why do you want it? Why again? So why is that something that you want to do?
Because he was a morally beautiful person. I mean, he was just a beautiful person. If you really look,
I don't know if it's
so was Immanuel Kant. So was Rene Descartes.
That's true, but he was perfect.
Are you sure?
He was sinless.
Yeah. How do you know that?
Nobody could find sin with him.
So you believe that, but
yes.
we should verify that. If we're
going to live
our lives, and especially, of course, the background for me is always how this affects politics. But I purposely left that aside. But it is a relevant factor as to why I have these opinions. But because again, if people were just believing this stuff the way they, I have no issues with people. If you want to be a furry or something, like, go do whatever the fuck you want. That has absolutely no impact on my life. You believe you're some whatever, that has no impact on my life. I mean, once you start, with the children and everything, obviously that's all. But the point is, it's because of the fact that you're impacting the way that I live.
Absolutely, but I would just
not just me, other people who want to be good people who simply cannot be convinced that a God exists.
I could only counter that in just by saying that I only cared about me for a long time in my life. And I'm not saying that a person that doesn't believe in God can't care about other people, but I know that not only am I called by my book and by my God to believe, but I'm also called to love people, even my enemies, people that do wrong to me. I mean, it literally just happened today where somebody told me that they were going to take me out back and beat the shit out of me because they didn't like something I said. And I love that man.
Story time.
No, I'll leave it.
Right? Like, how did that happen?
I'll leave it at that. All I'm saying is that I'm not just called to like people. I'm called to love people that I don't even like. That is so beyond the realm of my own personal purview. It actually supersedes who I am. It goes beyond who I am. I can't worry about me anymore. I actually have to worry about my community on a deep level, or I'm not going to be able to come to Christ and he'll say, "Good job, my good and faithful servant."
Again, Christian, I'm glad that that's what Christianity has done for you, especially based on the life that you were living.
Yes,
but you're assuming that because it works that way for you, that's the way it works. Full stop. And I'm here to tell you, as a person, that's not the case.
No, I never said. I would never assume that, because people are corrupt.
Then why
religion gets corrupt? Businesses get corrupt.
Wait. Then why would you want to convince anybody that Christianity is true?
I can't convince somebody.
Instead of Christianity is good.
Like I said in the beginning, I can't convince you of anything. I can just point you to truth. I can point you to truth and love.
You're here trying to convince me. Let's not get away from that. We're having a discussion on God. Does God exist or not? And you're here on the side of that God exists. So you are trying to that's what we're doing here. I mean, it's not
show you the evidence. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
show you the evidence that I find convincing, but I don't assume that it'll convince you. I have an interesting question for Christian and Lutch. What do you think the ultimate purpose of human beings is? Like, what is our purpose as human beings? What is the meaning?
I don't believe there is a purpose to humanity.
There is
a purpose that's set into the universe.
Okay, there's no greater. So I did hear you say
not that I know of. There could be, but not that I know of.
Well, and I did hear you say, right, that you believe in a metaphysical, that you believe that there's more to the existence than just purely physical, atoms and electrons and things like that. There's more to it. So I'd be interested in hearing you expand on that a little bit. But Christian, I wonder if you and I would agree. So I would say that the greatest purpose of man is to know God and enjoy him forever. That is our ultimate purpose. That is our reason for existing, is to know God and enjoy him forever. What?
Absolutely. And love my neighbor and bring them with me. Yes,
that's what we're called to do. That's what we're supposed to do. Yes.
Yeah.
So what if we could convince people that is the best way to go about life, regardless of what metaphysical things you believe in? Would that be better for society, or would that be worse for society?
I think you can make a secular argument for the benefits of Christianity. I just find that a little bit empty, because there's no greater meaning. There's no afterlife. It's all just about what's going to happen on this world. And this world,
some people care about that. Some people care about that.
In a million years, Lutch, this earth will not even exist, right? Or maybe go a billion years. Right? The sun is going to swallow up the earth, and it won't be habitable. There will be no more humanity. The very dust from our bones will be gone, atomized into stardust.
Right.
And no one will ever remember that anyone was here, that any of these conversations took place.
Are you familiar with the concept of mandala?
The mandala, I thought that was like when we all remembered that.
No, not Mandela. Mandala. So
not Mandela. Okay, no, I'm not.
Mandala. You might, if you see it, you might be like, oh yeah, I've seen that before.
I don't think I have. I might need you to break it down for me a bit. But I wouldn't agree that religion is a tool and depends on who wields it.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna. So we'll come back to this. We'll.
Flower of life? Are you talking about?
No, a mandala. So these are all mandalas. They are patterned, just repeating patterns. But typically, ironically, people get tattoos of these things. But the idea is something like this, where it's a Buddhist thing, where you use sand and you create the thing, and then you just
destroy it.
Yep. And it goes, it disappears.
Okay.
And
impermanence.
So what is that about? What's the meaning, the greater meaning of that?
Impermanence.
No matter how beautiful something is and how hard you work on it, it'll always go away.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And so again, this is where the question of like what other philosophies of religions have you explored when just this basic concept of this thing it gives a very clear, like, oh, okay, I get that. The same thing that you were just asking about. You see this one picture and it's like, oh yeah, well, that makes sense. And it just seems like there's so many people that are convinced that their ideology is the only way or the best way, and without having looked at other things to verify that. And just because it like this, it's like a shout out to TSN. It's like, the person who their first beer, they drank a Coors Light, and because they got drunk and they enjoyed the experience, that they only ever drink Coors Light. Coors Light is the best. There's no way I'm like an IPA. Guinness, fuck that shit. No way. Like,
I think,
how is this not the same exact thing?
I think you should at least do us the courtesy of assuming that we've looked into these things and aren't just following them blindly. That we're convinced by the argument. Right?
But we were directly asked, so you said that you weren't. So why should I assume? When you were specifically asked what other religions have you studied, and you said you went here and there, but you haven't really studied any, then I'm not assuming anything. Those are your words.
No, I'm saying that we've studied our religion, though. That we have studied,
yeah, you can never study every religion anyway. That's impossible.
I'm not saying every religion, but again, you didn't know what
you can look at a lot of them.
You're asking about the notion of how could you have purpose without a higher being? I show you one picture and you get it. Clearly, it wasn't that crazy of a thing to begin with.
Oh, I just thought that was a cool picture. I didn't know what you were trying to show with the picture. You were trying to explain the
idea. So the question was, how can you find a purpose if there's no anchor, if there's no afterlife, if there's no being? Because of the fact that I have feelings. I am enjoying this conversation right now, so I want to have this conversation. I think this conversation is helpful in general, so I want to have this conversation. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. And this comes with the understanding that, yes, this society that I live in that has brought me to this place was based on ideas that Christian ideas, Enlightenment ideas, whatever you want to call them. If it makes you feel better to say Judeo-Christian values, fine. I don't have an issue with that. But just because they came from this book doesn't mean the book is divine. It just means the ideas that are in the book were good ideas.
Is that if the ideas in the book are all really, really good, does that convince you even 1% that maybe the book is onto something and it's maybe true?
You ever read
More than other
Song of
books
Ice and
that have
Fire?
good things in them.
Yeah, you ever read a Song of Ice and Fire, Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just another book.
Spider-Man.
Absolutely. It will never become a divine book until God has actually spoken to you through it. It will never become nothing more than a book until you actually develop that relationship with the being in which that it has been written of. So it's just going to be a good book with good things. Of course, that makes perfect sense. Why it would be nothing more to you, and it never will be because you haven't had that relationship. And I pray that it does.
But people have had that relationship with other books.
Yeah, absolutely, and I can't argue with them.
So then clearly what you just said is not the case.
What do you mean?
You just said the only way is to accept the truth of the Bible. Then I will understand how the Bible is so true.
Yeah, but only one can be right. Only one can be right.
Right.
And then the law of non-contradiction.
You have not presented anything that would lead me to believe that your ideology is the one, if there is a one.
It's impossible because I haven't died yet.
I agree.
Yeah,
so
that
goes against your credibility to make the claims that you're making.
Well, here's one thing we all know is that one day one of us will be proven right beyond the shadow of a doubt, right? So we will.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, not necessarily.
Yeah,
I don't think you like as someone who doesn't believe in the afterlife. I don't even think death is like, okay, I'm dead, so this is it. I think the last thing that goes through your mind is probably, oh, this is probably it.
This is probably
the end.
Yeah, and you could be right.
And then you'd be right at that moment when the lights go out forever. You know you.
But I wouldn't know it. No, I wouldn't know it.
No, you wouldn't know.
Exactly. You'd be right, but you wouldn't.
I'd be dead, dude.
Yeah,
exactly.
you'd just be dead.
And great question from Unwanted Foe. How can you prove you're right when you're dead?
No, you can't. But listen. You're not meant to live to die. You're meant to live to live. You're meant to live.
I agree.
Sure, yeah.
I think that is completely in conflict with the notion that
without
you're going to spend
eternity,
eternity somewhere else and only less than 100 years here.
What I'm saying is, without eternity,
you could spend eternity in some place, but have to do 100 years or less first, and somehow that 100 years is as
it's so difficult when we're trying to put God in this comprehensible box. Like we're trying to comprehend the confines of God, and if it's not comprehensible, then I will not even give him a lick of my time. And it's like,
but he made the box.
Well,
he made the box.
So here's the thing: it is kind of it's a valid point that he's making. It's also kind of an escape hatch, right? So what we can fall back to is, look, if I could explain to you how the mind of God works, right, like in a detailed and thorough way, then I wouldn't need God because I would be God. I would have God's mind, right? Capable of understanding.
How do you get there? What are you again? How do you get to the point? Well, if I knew this thing, I would be God. What?
Because
please lay the argument out.
I'll lay
the argument out that if you know X, that makes you God.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's how I'd lay it out for you. So think about an ant, right, and a person, right? If that ant could articulate to the other ants the conversation that we're having right now, it now ceases to be an ant, and it is something entirely different, because that level of intelligence would preclude you from being an ant still, right? You're now
okay. So then, if I knew certain things that a human couldn't know, then I wouldn't be human.
Yes,
that's not God. That's just not human. Everything besides humans are not human. So to say if you were not human, you'd be not human means nothing.
All
you're saying is if I was God, I would be God. That's all you're saying.
Right. I'm saying that if I had
that's
God's
not an argument.
That I would
I agree that if you were God, you would in fact be God. What the question was is, if you knew the truth about the universe, how does that make you God? You said, if I knew what was the afterlife. You said, if I knew that, I would be God. What
not
reason
the
do you have to
afterlife.
say that anybody who knows what's going on with the afterlife is God?
No. That's not what I said.
That's what you said, dude. That's the logical conclusion of what you said. If that's not your argument, please correct it. But that is what you said.
Okay, let me try again to make my argument.
If I knew, I would be God. That is
more clearly. Let me try to make my argument more clearly. So, if I understood the mind of God, sufficient to such, are you still drinking that same Jim Beam you found on the ground?
I've just been putting little nips.
I think they probably put something in. I think that's maybe spiked with heroin or something. It's
maybe just a little nip, just a little. That's it. I'm out of goodies, and you guys are having a good conversation. I don't want to.
So if I were to be able to articulate for you and explain to you the way God's mind works, then that would eliminate the need for God. I would be as smart as God. I would be as intelligent as He is. Right?
So if I could,
wouldn't be as powerful.
Exactly. I wouldn't be as powerful.
Exactly. Thank you. That's like saying, if I could articulate what exactly Jordan Peterson meant by his lecture, then I would be Jordan Peterson.
What? Well, no, that's two humans. That's two humans. We're talking about an ant.
I am Jordan Peterson.
Different.
I am the ant.
Oh, it's super hard to go anywhere from here.
Shout out to Wesley Curry. Welcome to the party. I don't know how long you were sitting down there. It's not I can't see it as well. But welcome to the party. How are you doing?
Well, I find it most unusual and peculiar as you would that Jesus would actually choose me while I was smoking crack in an alley in Chicago and put his dove over my head at that time. I find that incredibly peculiar, and I've often in error questioned why, but that was 20 years ago, 21 years ago. So those days are gone. Thank you, Jesus. I haven't touched drugs in 12 years completely. But I speak from Jesus, who appeared to you and said, tell the vision, and to let you be warned. I don't want you to be fooled. But something happened to all of you and all of your viewers and everybody on earth. 2 specific dates. Now, you were in bed and suddenly you could not move. So was I. For I had seen my soul, my washed in the blood of Jesus soul, my baptized soul, and my soul was dead ashes from head to toe. But in the belly was the Holy Spirit of Jesus, the pearl of great wealth. Well, I found out for a few moments I could not move. It was October 10, it was 2005, and a voice spoke loudly in my head, a spiritual voice. And I felt like I was being electrocuted or set on fire. And the voice said, I will turn and toss you violently like a ball. And I looked in the Bible, King James Version, and I found a verse, the way Jesus said it was, the Lord shall turn and toss thee violently like a ball into a large country. There thou shalt die. There the chariots of thy glory shall be the shame of the Lord's house. But the voice that spoke inside of my head was not the Holy Spirit of Jesus.
How do you know this? How do you know when Jesus is talking to you versus you're hearing something that's not Jesus or the Holy Spirit?
When I saw the ashes in my soul, they were all wet with a clear, clean oil, the anointment of Jesus Christ. I know it.
How do you know it wasn't olive oil?
Huh?
How do you know it wasn't olive oil?
Well, those ashes were my name blotted out of the book of life. The wages of my sin. Those ashes are death.
Whoa.
The kingdom of Gog and Magog. Jesus revealed it to my eyes. I'm confessing to you.
That's what I'm asking. How do you know that it was Jesus?
His sheep know his voice.
It was not Jesus that said, I will turn and toss you like a ball. It was Satan.
Okay, so
Now-
how do you tell the difference? Because if I heard a voice, I wouldn't be able to know if this
Like I
is Jesus,
said,
if
I'm
it's the Holy
anointed.
Spirit.
I can discern the difference between Jesus, who said it is time, and Satan, who said sad and delicious.
Oh,
What
actually,
did
no,
he- what
I'm
did he- what
anointed,
did he
and I
sound
was
like?
told that Wesley, by you being here, this is going to end the world. So I'm anointed.
It happened again on
What
March
happened again?
31st, 2020.
Wait. Did you hear what I just said, Wesley?
I heard what you said.
Okay, so why is that more or less valid or not valid compared to what you said?
I heard what you said. I have no comment about it.
Okay, so the question was, I just realized that I'm anointed, and I've actually heard from the Holy Spirit that you being on this stream is going to end the world.
Lutch, don't blaspheme. Just don't.
Wait, whoa, it's funny.
Just in case. Just
No,
in case.
I heard it too. I heard it too.
Yeah, sure. You're allowed to do
Well,
that.
how do I know if I'm crazy or if I really did just hear the Holy Spirit?
If you'll let me finish.
I want to hear his second. I want to hear his second vision that he had. I want to hear it.
On the 21st of March, or 31st of March, 2020, the same thing started to happen, but this time it couldn't touch me. I could still move. And the voice I perceived speaking could not get into me. For the Holy Spirit of Jesus had restored those ashes in my soul to light and made the breastplate of righteousness, made the helmet of salvation. And the voice said, don't tell the vision. And that was the voice of Satan. He pulled the fire down from heaven, as written in Scripture. And out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the false teacher, and out of the mouth of the beast, I saw an unclean spirit like a frog. That happened when Satan said, don't tell the vision. Out of his mouth came an unclean spirit like a frog, a Darth Kermit. And it had two fangs on its throat and an Omni-branded barcode on its head. That frog head is Allah. The way, one last statement. The way Satan said, I will turn and toss you violently like a ball, is the way Satan fooled Muhammad and gave Muhammad the words of the Quran, is how Satan fooled Krishna and gave the Krishna in the Buddha text, is how Satan fooled Smith and gave him the Book of Mormon, is how Satan fooled men into changing the King James Version into the New King James Version, the NIV, the American Standard. All those are perverted books. The King James Version is the word exactly as Jesus spoke it.
Okay, Wes, I have a question.
Fooled men in that way.
So Wes, this conversation is not about. Wes, you gotta slow down. I just gave you like 10 minutes. I just gave you 10 minutes. You gotta slow down. We're all trying to have a conversation here. So
I've got so many questions.
There's a lot of questions here. We can't just be rattling off. And again, as I was saying a lot before with Jetstream and Christian Beckert here, that I'm pretty well aware with in general what the Christian doctrine says. I'm not interested in litigating what it says. I'm interested in determining whether or not it is reasonable to believe those things.
Jesus, that I speak the truth, would you put the taste of honey in these people's mouths in this same minute, please?
What?
Okay.
He's praying. He's praying.
When you had these experiences,
the taste of,
all right, hold on. Let's go to Cybercore. Let's go to Cybercore.
When you had both of these when you had both of these experiences, I'm sorry, when you had this experience, you said it happened twice. Did both experiences start with you waking up from a sleep and being unable to move?
The first time I was in bed, getting ready to go to sleep, and suddenly it felt as though I could not move against
you could not move.
And the reason that happened is because my soul was not baptized. And Jesus removed his forgiveness, the hedge, for a few moments, only for a few moments, but Jesus removed his forgiveness from my body, and I could not move. against the very force of gravity.
I only ask because I've had many similar experiences, but I suffer from sleep paralysis hallucinations.
Right.
I have since
I
I was a
believe
kid.
that may have happened to you many times, and each of those times it was not sleep paralysis. It was Jesus removing.
No, Wesley, he's
one time, I'm not patronizing. No, this is true. I suffer from constant sleep paralysis.
No, I'm
I'm
not doubting that.
I've been visited by demons, by ghosts, and by aliens. These have happened. So I'm just curious as to where that could have been a possible explanation or startup of the first event.
Yeah. What, Wesley? I just think that in the context of this argument, that what might be helpful for people is to try and make as clear and logical and rational and even secular, even though I know that's hard to make a secular argument for a religious truth. I think that's kind of what we're trying to do here, is at least the reasonability of the claim. Like, that's what I'm trying to establish, is not so much that I can prove that God exists beyond a reasonable doubt, but based on what we can prove and what is verifiable historically, that it's reasonable to believe that God exists.
My prayers are entered into the ears of the Lord of Jesus. When I asked him to put honey in everyone's mouth, not just yours, but everyone watching this show tasted honey. So, and I said so that what I speak is the truth. So
put one in the chat if you put one in the chat if you tasted honey.
Jesus himself said to you,
"Oh, you're not going to yell over me."
Talk, Allah. And Jesus
put one in the chat. Put one in the chat if you tasted honey when he said put honey in their mouths.
You believe the voice that told you don't tell the vision is a greater spirit, is a Godfather above Jesus Christ. That spirit that told you don't tell the vision was Satan himself.
Can we go to Rowdy Ruff's comment here? Rowdy, I'd love to know what verse exactly are you talking about there?
Well, because obviously Jesus is not different than God. Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit are all the same. So when God sent his only son to be sacrificed to himself to save us from himself, then, I mean, come on, bro. This is day one.
Well, hold on. Jesus also said, I and the Father are one. I'm pretty sure. Let me find the verse.
He did. It's okay.
Jesus appeared to you 7 times.
Gosh.
Jesus said,
Wesley, let me ask you a question. Wesley, you're muted.
What is that noise? What is that?
Yeah, who?
I have no idea.
Sounds like a car.
Can you guys just if
There's
you're
a car going by.
I don't know who's what, but if you could mute yourself while you're
are you actually in that living room? Are you in a McDonald's?
So Wesley, my question to you is: do you think the things that you've said would reach the ears of an atheist who genuinely wants to understand God, reality, those things? Do you think that would be convincing?
I'm never going to convert an atheist. The only one that's going to convert any atheist will be Jesus Christ.
On that we all agree.
Huh?
I said on that we all agree, Wesley. Here, man.
So why? So I'm not being antagonistic, just genuinely asking. What is your what made you hit the link and come up and want to say something?
Go ye.
Me too, Stephen. Say again.
Go ye. The word of Jesus Christ. Go ye.
Okay, so you just came up here
Make
to preach.
Disciples of every nation, and yep. I know what you're saying.
Well, thank you for coming up. That's not really what we are doing. We're having a debate about these things.
Sure. Well, that guy that told you don't tell the
like to, no. So we're not really preaching, and as an atheist, that's kind of disrespectful to my platform, as we're trying to have a discussion on both sides. So I'm gonna let you go, but thank you so much for coming up. You have a good one. That
very
was
dangerous.
Exactly as wild as I thought that was gonna be. I'm pretty sure. Wait, go on, Tech. Is that the Wesley? That Wesley? I'm pretty sure that was that Wesley.
I'm not really sure, honestly. It could be before my time too, though.
I don't think the Eclipse guy, was that not?
Oh no, I just always remembered him as Seabass.
Oh, that was no. Was that? No,
Yep,
that
that
wasn't
was Seabass.
Oh, well.
Well, his arguments made sense to me.
Hey, we could
Anyway.
bag on him. We could bag on him all day, but he has more courage in his heart than Stephen Colbert does, and that's for damn sure.
Dilly,
There's the
Dilly,
noises.
Wow.
There's the noises.
Come on, give me a punchline for that
Did it
one.
again.
Use
Yeah,
that.
Dilly,
soundboard
Dilly,
clearly.
Dilly.
Okay.
He's got more courage than
This
is-
Colbert Chief.
This is not to cast aspersions at him, but this is one of the core tenets of following Jesus Christ: is love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful.
Yeah, my sister just got married.
And it does not demand its own way. That was very boastful, very proud, very up in our face, and it's very dangerous.
We're gonna close this down a little bit, but in a little bit. But the reason I asked him how he thought it would reach an atheist is it's very clear. Like that is way more familiar to the types of conversations to have with Christians than anything that's happened with any of you guys. And so I just want to point that out. That is typically the type of conversation that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And
and that's why I wanted to come on here and
100%.
just try and make as clear and
Be more
rational.
reasonable.
And
Yes.
I understand that you don't find my evidence convincing, but I hope that at least it was a clear and rational argument. Oh yeah, you're boasting about not fearing the Lord.
I mean, I got to dilly that. I dilly you. I dilly him. Got him.
Fear of
Stephen
the Lord is the
Colbert,
beginning
join us
of
in the
wisdom.
after party, bro. I promise. Okay,
He's
if
a-
you join us tonight,
Christ,
Stephen
this
Colbert.
is how
hold on.
religious wars get started.
This it is.
Stephen Colbert, if you join the the after party, I promise for today, you and I, we got a clean slate. You might still piss me off. I still might piss you off. It is what it is. But if you join today, clean slate. Fair enough? Fair enough. So let's go around. Like I said, this is going to be an ongoing conversation. As you saw when I thought it was this Christian, but the Christian Watson, things got relatively heated and more heated than they needed to be. And even though we got in we got into it. We got heated. We got it was there was always the respect behind it. And so this is the kind of conversation that I think is helpful, where we can be ourselves and be passionate about the things that we're passionate about without having I want to say it in a nice way. Let's be who we are and say what the fuck we think and stand on business. And I appreciate all of you guys for hopping on and doing all of this. So since Jetstream was our original guest, I'm going to go to everybody else and give him the last word. Guamsek, let's go to you for. Oh wait, yeah. Anybody? No ones in the chat. Anybody had a taste of honey when he said honey? No, didn't think so. Guamsek, the floor, sir, is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a great stream just to be able to have the conversation and not just argue about it. Of course, I'm always going to be taking that middle road and with my personal beliefs and whatnot. I think that religion has its bad sides, atheism has its bad sides, but they all have a little bit of good in them as well. I still cannot, for the life of me, understand why it matters if God exists. I just think you live a good life, those fruits will be given to you, and you'll be able to spread it to the people who want to listen.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thank you so very, very much for hanging out, and hopefully I will see you shortly in the after party. You have a good one. Thank you. Let's go to our boy Christian. What you got for the people?
I just want to thank you for this time. I am drawn to you. It's crazy. It's like bees to honey. I mean, I really am drawn to you, Lutch. I don't know what it is. I truly believe the Holy Spirit always leads me here to just show you a part of God that you should see and not see things that are boastful and proud and rude. And I wanted to just come here and just show you the glory of Jesus Christ, and that I hope that someday you get to encounter that. And I believe he also, while I prayed while I was gone, he told me to say that if you read Ecclesiastes, he will show up. So I just want to let you know that if you read that, he will show up. I believe that's what he told me, and I'll be.
All right, then
I
guess
believe in
I'm
that.
reading Ecclesiastes tonight, and
Cool.
we'll see. We
All
will
right.
see if you talk to God or not. But either way, again, very much appreciate you coming up here. I appreciate the challenge, and hopefully you'll be around for some future discussions.
Love you. Hey, Jet, reach out to me. You were great.
Thanks,
You're
buddy.
you're an awesome guy. I love you.
There you go. You're in Discord, right?
I don't use Discord anymore. I've gotten off all social medias. So
that's not really social media. It's like a group chat. It's just join the goddamn thing. Worst case scenario, check it out, and you're like, fuck this, I don't like it, delete it. Download it and give it a shot. But either way, thank you so very much for hanging out, and you added a lot to this discussion. So you have a good one. All right, Cybercore, you are up. You are up. Giving some last words for
All right.
the people.
I should have written this down, but I'll do my best. We've had a lot of talk about purpose, and we've had a lot of talk about goodness and coming from goodness, and a culture that comes from goodness through Christianity. I believe a lot of our goodness comes from these values and these traditions, but I also think a lot of our best values have come from periods when we have rebelled against some of these values as well. I think there is no grand unifying purpose, but I do think our actions have purpose, and the things we do have purpose. And regardless of whether or not that comes from God, I think as long as someone is putting their purpose into good, then, and they do that more often than they do it the opposite way, I would consider that, in where it matters, a good person. But in talking to Jet, I will say, speaking to you does not, it never feels like talking to a preacher or a converter.
Agreed.
When I have these conversations with you, it's akin to having these conversations with family, and I commend you for that.
Yeah.
Gang. Thank you so much, sir. And hopefully we'll see you over in Discord.
Thanks for
Thank you
having me.
again. You
Thanks,
have
buddy.
a good one, brother. All right, Jets. Oh shit! I hit the. Oh, he left. What happened? I was gonna get from the floor, but we had a bunch of people saying, "Jet, you did so good." Nick didn't get any honey. Steven got some honey. King Nirvana was saying, "Jet, good job." There are definitely people. Oh, there we go.
I was
We
like,
almost
whoa,
lost.
he didn't even let me get the last word. Dang.
I wasn't sure if he left, and because I had the thing open for him to kick him out, and I wasn't sure if he left, and then I clicked it for you.
It's
But
all good.
yes, so please, anything you have for the people, the floor, sir, is yours.
Thank you so much, guys. I want to thank you all for thanks for having me. Thanks for most of you for being respectful and arguing in good faith. I hope we had some good discussions and we sharpened up our own positions. I'd like to personally thank Guam, Christian, and Cyber. Who what's his Discord? I know that guy.
Well, that's Sizemore. I don't even know.
I've heard his voice.
What is your name in Discord, Sizemore?
Yeah, but thank you guys for stepping in when I had to go deal with the family issues. And Lutch, of course, thank you for hosting the stream, agreeing to have me on and hearing me out and letting me make the best argument that I could. I would just like to. My hope is that you've heard at least a somewhat rational, logical argument for Jesus Christ's deity, and I would encourage anybody who has any curiosity about these things, even if you're going into it thinking you're totally not going to be convinced by it, that if you find this interesting, there's a great book. It's called The Case for Christ. It's written by a journalist who, a journalist personal investigation of the evidence for Jesus. It's by Lee Strobel. And I would encourage you guys to check that book out. Thanks again. And yeah, I will see you in the after party.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Christian, if you are still watching, because you were up here, I did give you the permissions to come into the after party. Myself and Indie Film are already in there, so definitely come through. Jet Stream, thank you so very much, and I'm excited to continue this conversation and get further on with it. It was definitely not necessarily as challenging as I think y'all hoped it would be. But I hope again that this can just demonstrate that the even though Christianity can make so much sense, the notion of it being the only way or it being something superior to everything else, which is not necessarily what anybody explicitly said, but clearly if you're dedicating your life to it, that is what you think. Otherwise, you would study other religions. You would try to find this, that, and the other. And you don't do that. You accept the religion that you follow. And if that makes you happy, if that works for you, then at this point in human history, I'm glad that that's the case. I am working very hard to create a society where religion organically falls away. Probably something that's not going to happen in my lifetime. But I do believe that is something that I can at least get the ball rolling. And that way, nobody needs to have their religion taken away from them. It's just you evolve as we evolve as a society. We still do all the things that we know are right and don't do all the things that we know are wrong. But we don't have this overlord that makes us so fearful and it's so strict in the way that we live. And when we already have so many people not following the Bible, then having an alternative moral structure is all the more important. And guess what? The numbers of people falling away from religion is increasing. There might be a little bit of a pop because of wokeness, but that's a flash in the pan. And I'm telling y'all, it's going to be the Islamists versus the secularists, and y'all are going to be on our side. And we got y'all back. Let's give a big shout out to the donations. My goodness. Unwanted Foe came through with a couple. And our boy, Jesus Christ on a motorbike, the sponsor of the stream, Funk Master General. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Let's give him one more. Even though he got his peanut butter. You guys got his peanut butter. That's right. Every time we get to $50, he gets a thing of peanut butter. But you guys went over that. Thank you so very, very much. Big shout out to any of you who were up here. I really, again, do appreciate the challenge and the conversation. Hopefully, we could continue to do that and find more people who are willing to get into the mud a little bit, knowing that we're not really getting mad at each other. Said shit. Me too. I love this motherfucker. Once again, this is my co-host Morty, aka Morty, and I'm your host Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, we are out of here. Thank you again. Peace.